Flash flooding event unfolding, but also embedded within that still the possibility of severe weather. And we have a new tornado warning that has come out for our friends in St. Francis County, Arkansas. You see just tremendous amounts of lightning like with the storms we had earlier. I'm going to turn off our lightning for a second so we can see where this warning is. There was also a warning for a little storm south of Brinkley, but it's this activity that was approaching Forest City, again entirely rain wrapped right now, but within that mess of rain there is some rotation. You see it right in here. It's right over top of Forest City. This warning came out just a couple of minutes ago. You folks there in Forest City, you need to be in your safe spot immediately because that rotation is again right on top of you. And again, what I'm looking at here is wind moving away from the radar beam. You see the radar sweep going around. That's from Millington. Wind moving away from that radar site and wind moving towards the radar site in the green. So there's definitely some tightening rotation. Not enough right now that I'd say we have an ongoing tornado, but certainly one that is imminent or one that is cycling. A threat that we got to respect there that is again right over Forest City. Again, this is moving east at about 25 miles an hour. I'm flipping between a couple of different products just to get us the best view here. There's certainly some rotation there, and it's just a matter of whether or not it decides to tighten up again. It was certainly tighter a couple minutes ago, and it looks like it may be tightening up right over Forest City. I go back in time just a second. You see there back towards Redfern. It was rather robust just west of town, and as it has come into town and right over I-40, it's weakened a little bit, but I do see some tightening there right over parts of Forest City, and it's paralleling I-40 right now. So in Forest City, this is right on top of you now. If there is a tornado occurring, it's happening right now, right in Forest City and just east of town, kind of heading down Newcastle Road, right in between Highway 70 and I-40, and it's headed straight east northeast. Let me give you a storm track. This is again moving east northeast about 25 miles per hour. So it's a little slower than the storm motion that we've had at previous times throughout the day today. I'm going to take that where that circulation is now and just kind of fan us out up towards Blackfish. Some arrival times. Blackfish 8:26. Time now is right at the 8 o'clock hour. Cecilia, Lucerne 8:30, 8:34. Widener 8:11. So in about 10-11 minutes from now, again, it's going to go right down, kind of splitting the gap here between 70 and I-40 and kind of ride the interstate deeper into St. Francis County. And it is tightening up just a little bit as we've gone through the last couple of scans. Let me look at our shear product real quick and see if there's been some significant rotation here. Again, this product lags just a scan or two behind. We can tell they're just west of town in Forest City. I'm talking about just west of there. Pretty significant rotation. It weakened a little bit, got right over town. The warning was triggered, and there's still some significant rotation that I'm watching, and we'll see if it continues to tighten up. If it does, this becomes a more problematic situation, but you're absolutely in your safe spot in Forest City for another few minutes until this gets east of you, in Madison as well, and over towards Widener. That would be the most immediate area of threat for the next 10 minutes or so. I want to wait and see what this does. If it continues to ramp up, continues to strengthen, we're going to let you know, folks down the road, that you need to be getting your safe spot as well. For now, though, it's just this immediate area for the next 10 minutes that this is approaching. If it continues to strengthen, we may see them confirm this if we start to get any sort of debris signature. But there is a lot of rotation in that, and if it's not producing a tornado, it is pretty close. Here's the latest scan that just came out. Just north and west of Madison, almost right over the interstate, right here. If there was a tornado occurring right now, that's where it would be, right over the interstate. And guys in the back, if we have any RDOT cameras in this area looking particularly near Forest City or just east of Forest City, that would be beneficial. Now the problem is this is entirely rain wrapped. Let me go back to the reflectivity for a second, and you know what I'm seeing as well, there's almost a second little area of rotation back towards Palestine. That could be a big problem as well if that is starting to tighten up. Maybe two pockets of rotation that we're watching come into Forest City. So if you're in St. Francis County right now, you need to be staying weather aware for what's going on, because again, it's not just potentially one circulation, but a second one back to the south and west, back between Goodwin and Palestine right now. Let me look at our debris product. This often helps us look at if there is a tornado occurring, we can spot any debris that's maybe being lofted in the atmosphere. I'm just going back a few scans. I'm not seeing anything just yet. Sometimes it does take some time, if there were a tornado occurring, for any debris to be lofted high enough for the radar beam to be able to see and give us a picture and give us an indication that there was a tornado occurring. Again, right now I'm not seeing that, so that's good news, because obviously once you see it, you know damage is ongoing and occurring there in St. Francis County. You folks in Madison are absolutely in your safe spot. Widener, you're in your safe spot. And if you're in Hicks Station and Blackfish, further on down the road, you're watching this really, really closely. It's moving slow enough that you got a few more minutes. You can just be on guard there. My advice would be get your safe spot ready. You got little kids, you know where your place is, your most interior room of your home, away from windows. You're just trying to put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. If you have a two-story house, lowest level, not second story. You're going to be on the lowest level, closest to the ground, and again, put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. There's still some significant rotation here. It's messy. I wouldn't say it's necessarily any tighter than it was, but it's not necessarily any weaker than it was either. So something to really watch here, again, as it slides down right along I-40 and Highway 70. Looks like it may go just north of Widener. There is potentially some rotation trying to develop again back to the south and west, back towards Palestine right now. We'll see if that is just noise, or if we get a little more definition there that is a second area of rotation. But when I said all of this is rain wrapped, I mean, look at this mess. I mean, it's all enshrouded in rain. So it's very heavy rain coming down. It's a mess. You're not going to see anything. Don't try and look out the window and see what's going on outside. This is just stay home weather all evening, because this is, obviously a tornado warning. Obviously, it goes without saying, you don't go out in it. But the weather is really going downhill in a hurry from a flooding perspective all across the Mid-South this evening, particularly along the I-40 corridor, where storms have filtered in to the same spots that just got hit earlier. We have a front that was stalled for most of the day across northern Arkansas getting moving again, creating new thunderstorm development that's then training the same areas right down I-40, pushing into the Memphis metro. I mean, we've had spots before any of this got going this evening that was 4 to 5 inches of rainfall since yesterday evening, and now we're getting more rain on top of that. I'm not going to rule out somebody here. There were some reports, I think, in southwestern Cross County, 5.6 inches radar estimated. That was at 5 p.m. today before any of this got going. So there's going to be spots that end up getting close to 9-10 inches of rain in eastern Arkansas within the span of almost 24 hours when all is said and done later this evening. But in the short term, we'll get more into the flooding threat as we go forward in time, and we get rid of this tornado warning, and we'll be covering any flooding issues as we go through the evening. But the most imminent problem, the most threatening issue right now, is the ongoing tornado warning that does include Forest City, and it's the threat for the time being has passed Forest City off to the east, but there's also been some rotation trying to spin up south and west of Ginn. Where was this, Ed? All right, so this is at Widener, right on I-40, looking. Was that westbound? Okay, so we're looking back to the west. This is actually a really good view. I take it it's at the Widener exit. So this camera view is going to be right here, looking west down I-40. This is a great spot. Let's leave this camera up, guys, because we're looking right at the circulation back towards Madison here. It's almost tightening up a little bit more for Madison versus further north over the interstate. So we may get to see something here potentially on this camera view just because of where it's located in the perfect position and all the lightning that's ongoing. Unfortunately, these folks on the road are driving straight west into a potential tornadic situation here, and they have no idea, and there's just no way to warn them. So maybe you know somebody that's making a trip over to Little Rock this evening. They decided to leave and just drive through these storms. Give them a call, let them know, hey, you watch out once you get towards Forest City, because this is going to be a problem, as this is not weakening. It's not necessarily strengthening either. It's holding its own. Right over Madison right now, there's some robust rotation, again, and further beyond that, broad rotation as well. And again, this view is north of Widener. It's the Widener exit on I-40, looking westbound towards Madison. So we're here looking this way in the camera view that's over my left shoulder on the left side of your screen there. And you see folks putting on the brake lights all of a sudden. They're driving into some heavy rain, but also potentially maybe seeing something else that they need to put their brake lights on for sure. You see all that? Maybe an accident down the road. Folks are moving along pretty good, and then all of a sudden the brake lights are coming on, so you wonder what's going on as they drive eastbound there. But tremendous amounts of lightning. And guys, just leave this camera view up, because this is a great view for our purposes right now. If there is something occurring now with the new scan, it's going to be right in here between from a perspective of left and right between Madison and Widener, but right over the interstate or very near the interstate now. The circulation before was kind of back towards Madison, and now it's almost right over the interstate, if not right over Highway 70. Those two roads kind of parallel each other. It's going to be tough to see just because of how heavy the rain is, but all the lightning certainly illuminating everything nicely for us as well. If there's anything to see, you're going to see some darkening, either left and or some lightening of the skies. I should say left and right. It's kind of hard with the cameras over my left shoulder. I can't really point, but we'd be looking for something almost in the middle of your screen there. This camera is pointed in the exact perfect position to see anything if there's anything to see. Again, this is near the Widener exit on I-40, looking back to the west, and we're looking right into the rotation there right now. And with all the brake lights, that's telling me that something's going on for the folks driving westbound into this. Either they're just getting hit with some really intense rainfall all of a sudden that's maybe picking up, or some strong wind gusts that's caused them to really slow down. You see that because they're passing this camera and they're doing okay on their speed, and then it really slows down. They're just beyond this. So really interesting view to see what's happening there. But on the next scan, this rotation is going to be right over this camera if there's anything to see at all. And then we'll try and get a new camera view to help us out at some point. It's good to see folks traveling the other way, going eastbound, because that means they've gotten through that area okay. But wow, just tremendous amounts of lightning. Somebody in the back too, could you grab me a fresh battery for my IFB box? I would appreciate it. Gosh, the lightning is almost nonstop, and that's been a key to just every storm today. We had at one point all the storms in our viewing area all put together over a 30-minute span, producing almost 8,000 lightning strikes in 30 minutes. The lightning has just been prolific, and there have been these embedded little supercells from time to time that produce these little rotation areas, and they trigger tornado warnings. Here's the good news. The circulation is weakened. It's the first time I've seen it drop off a little bit more than it was previously. So that's good to see it weaken just a bit. I'm hoping that downward trend continues. Let me go back and look at areas further to the south and west where we had that second little uptick in rotation. That has also fallen apart a little bit. So that's good. We'll see what they decide to do with the National Weather Service with this tornado warning. They're discussing it now just because of the weakening trend. If that weakening trend continues, they would likely allow this warning to either go until 8:30 and then be dropped by itself, or they'd cancel it early. Because it's 8:10 right now, we're coming up on 8:10, they may decide to just let this ride for now. If that kind of broad rotation in here north of Widener now, still right over the interstate, if that holds together in at least this broad fashion, they'll probably keep the tornado warning up just in case it decides to tighten again. Never really saw anything on the camera there, so either this lifted before it got to where we could see it, or it never produced a tornado, or maybe it stayed just south of the interstate there where we couldn't see it. It's also incredibly heavy rain in that view, so it's tough to see anything anyways, but appreciate you guys pulling that view up in the back. You guys can take that down for now. We'll see if we need to pull up any other additional camera views as we go forward in time. Real quick, I'm going to go back to our debris tracker just to see if anything popped up in those few minutes where we were looking at that camera. I'm not seeing anything in the last 10 or 15 minutes, which is great. That would be indicative of the fact that we did not have anything being hit, any debris. It can always be just leaves or sticks, something like that, but we didn't see that sign of anything as this moved through Forest City or Madison, so that is good news. I know the warning is still ongoing back to the west. You don't have any imminent threat in Forest City or Madison. I'm still watching to see if anything tries to flare up with the tail end of this where we had a little rotation. Maybe something north of Palestine right now, so we'll have to keep a close eye on that as it approaches Forest City as well. Nothing imminent there, but it's decent reason for them to keep the tornado warning where it is in place, because if this does decide to rotate and spin a little bit more, it would be moving into the same areas that are already tornado warned, so it kind of takes care of warning those folks. It's a very turbulent atmosphere. I mean, you could argue that there's little pockets of teeny little rotation all over the place in here, and I think a lot of that is probably just having to do with a very robust thunderstorm and downdrafts and updrafts going up all over the place. It's a big cluster of storms, big complex of storms, so you often do get these little spin-up rotations. You're just really looking for the ones that sustain themselves, and the one that triggered the tornado warning certainly did sustain itself. If anything is developing south and west, there's a couple spots. Here would be one, the other would be up here. Both have now moved east of Highway 261 and both are moving northeast or east-northeast. So Bonaire and Forest City, let's watch these closely for you to make sure they don't tighten up anymore. For the time being, not overly concerned about it, but if we start to see one spot more than another take over, or both of them start to rotate or become a little tighter, that would be cause for concern and a reason for them to keep that tornado warning going. The original area rotation is not as impressive. So remember, we got on the air, I told you in Hicks Station and Blackfish. Let's just watch this. Let's see how it goes. The reason for that was just for this reason. In no sense in, again, waking up the kids and getting everybody in your safe spot if this was going to fall apart before it got to you. And it looks like it certainly has. This is not producing a tornado right now. There's broad rotation here. It's enough reason, again, for them to keep the tornado warning in place, particularly for what's going on south and west of here. But that initial area of rotation is much, much less concerning than it was a few scans ago. So they're going to keep watching this at the National Weather Service, and they'll decide what they want to do with that warning. But as I said, they're probably going to let this go up to at least 8:30 and then evaluate, okay, do we need to issue a new warning? Can we extend this? Based on probably what either is going on with any rotation to the south and southwest. Because again, there's little tiny pockets of rotation all in here. None of them jumping off the screen as, hey, that's a problem or anything, but something to watch for sure. While we have a little lull in the tornadic activity, we're not going off the air here because we still have that ongoing tornado warning and areas that could still redevelop. But while we have a little bit of a break, not tracking any particular concerning area of rotation, let's talk about the ongoing flood threat. This will be quite significant because let me show you just the rainfall amounts here. Let me go back. We'll go back to like 24 hours and bear with me while I pop this up. And before I just did that, they did something with the tornado warning. So I'm going to go back to that real quick. Looks like they may have confirmed it. Tornado observed. Let me just read the text on this. So they've gotten a report now. A confirmed tornado located near Widener as of 8:12, moving east of at 8:30. Weather spotters. Okay, so we have some sort of weather spotters out there that are apparently able to see this, and this could very well be folks on the interstate. Remember we showed you that view from that camera as that view is near Widener looking back towards Madison, and we were just waiting to see if we could spot something. Didn't see anything on our camera view, but it could have been somebody on the interstate driving down the road that was able to see something up close. So as of 8:12, a confirmed tornado warning for a tornado near Widener. It'd be right in here. It's not that impressive on just looking at pure velocity data, but enough that whatever weather spotter called into the National Weather Service, I'm just reading their reports. Whatever weather spotter called in, they were confident enough in that report to issue a confirmation of this tornado warning. Let me go back a couple scans and see if there was something a little bit more there. Probably right in here. And this was when we were looking at that camera view from here, south and west. This was the tightest it's been in the last 10 minutes. This was at 8:06, so this was about 8 minutes ago. And that's probably when that report called in, or they started to call in, and they finally got relayed the message, and they've now confirmed this. Now it has since, it would still be this initial rotation, because again, that's where it's at now. You go back 8 minutes and just kind of follow this up I-40, it's fallen apart. Now, could there be a new area of circulation trying to develop? Yes, but they may have just been a little bit late in catching up with. They're going to issue the confirmation for the tornado warning, but it may have already fallen apart by the time that goes through that process and they relay that information and they say it's a confirmed tornado. So it may be a little bit of backloading there from what they're doing at the National Weather Service, because right now there's nothing that jumps off the screen as we have a continued confirmed tornado on the ground. But there was a confirmation of that near Widener within the last 7 or 8 minutes. Maybe a new little area trying to pop up again north of Widener, totally different spot, unrelated to previously, but maybe a little bit of rotation along St. Francis 414 Road, north and east of Widener. There's a lot of wind regardless. There's still little pockets of rotation near Bonaire, maybe a little bit of stuff back towards Palestine, maybe a little something up here. It's all over the place. And I think the warning likely covers all of this, but it's certainly not just one spot that we're tracking, and it's changing with every scan that comes in. New scan just came in. Let's look at anything back up towards Blackfish. No, it's just not there anymore. So likely what has happened here is they issued the tornado warning. Whatever was there moved through Forest City, tightened as it just got over Madison, moved over towards Widener. Right in here, we were looking at it with our camera view on the RDOT camera, looking westbound down I-40 right into that circulation. We couldn't see anything just because of the low visibility and the heavy rain, but I fully anticipate that there was somebody on the road there. Remember all the brake lights? They were able to see some quick rope tornado or something that they were able to report. And by the time that report got relayed to the National Weather Service, a couple of scans had come in and it had fallen apart. So confirmed tornado, yes, 10 minutes ago. No longer, I would say, that we have a tornado anywhere on the ground near Widener or up towards Blackfish. All of that is completely fallen apart. So that would be my evaluation of the whole kind of situation as it stands right now. Now, we still have to watch, again, for an additional area of rotation. Nothing jumping off the screen at the moment. Before that all came out with that confirmation of the tornado warning, we were talking about our flash flood warning. And again, with a little break, again, that is kind of taken shape there, there's nothing imminent with our tornado warning in St. Francis County. We're not leaving it. We're paying attention to it, but we're waiting for the next scan to come in. Let's zoom on out and just give you a whole picture here of what's going on. The flash flood threat is pretty significant, even around the Memphis metro, particularly in Arkansas. But let me show you again just our 24-hour rainfall totals. And this is from when the first raindrops fell yesterday evening, late yesterday evening. So much of this is almost like within 18 hours. It's a lot of rain in a short period of time. Look at some of these rainfall totals. I'm going to guess 7-8 inches, 6.6. Just spot here. I'm just 6 north of Forest City. 4. I mean, that's a lot of rain, and it's still pouring rain in all these locations, and it will continue to do so for quite a while. So somebody in here is going to get 8-9 inches of rain before all is said and done tonight, and that's all falling within 24 hours. That's a lot of water. And keep in mind, we have very dry soil, as we know from the drought. Typically, it takes some time for that soil to get ready to absorb moisture again. It's like concrete, as you folks know here, especially in Cross County and up into Poinsett County, how dry it's been. All the farmers, all that water tends to run off very easily because, again, it's like concrete. It's tough for the ground to absorb heavy rain, especially in a short period of time when you're coming out of a drought, and we're still in a drought. So this all runs off, and it can lead to flash flooding in a lot of spots on the roadways. And all this weather is, again, moving through the Memphis metro over the next several hours, and more storms are likely to build up back behind it. This is very heavy rain in West Memphis through much of the Memphis metro right now. There's clusters of it out ahead down towards Collierville and into northern Marshall County. I mean, area wide, it's very, very busy right now. Now, as we talked about earlier, our severe threat would diminish, and it certainly has. Virtually all of this is not severe. It's just that we've gotten these little spin-ups that have prompted a couple tornado or one tornado warning in St. Francis County. I know this action back to the west is severe warn for the time being, but everything is for the most part stabilized. There's been a little uptick in instability out of the south and southwest as the low-level jet kind of winds racing a couple thousand feet above us have kicked in, and that has perked up this activity a little bit. But the severe threat is not as big of an issue as we go deeper into the night. I know we have the ongoing tornado warning right now for just the... All right, so a little note on that, and I'll finish my comment there. They brought it back down to a base tornado warning, which again goes along with what I kind of laid out for you. Instead of a confirmed tornado warning, they brought it back down to a base tornado warning because there's no longer anything evident that a tornado is occurring. They got the one report when it was near Widener, when it was at its tightest, of a tornado. That report took several minutes to get into the National Weather Service, so by the time it did and they confirmed this, that was gone and it had fallen apart, so it was no longer confirmed. So now they decided, let's bring it back down because it's no longer confirmed. There's no longer anything occurring right now to just radar indicated rotation, which makes perfect sense. So great job there at the National Weather Service kind of sorting through all that as the reports have come in. Again, I know it just looks like a big blob, but within that there's little embedded rotation that we're still keeping an eye on. The warning goes for another 9 minutes, and at that point, if nothing else perks up in terms of rotation, then they will allow it to expire and we'll just be back to where we were with blobs of heavy rain rolling on through. But again, all this rain still has to come through tonight. A lot of spots have picked up several inches of rain up until this point, and this isn't going to end anytime soon. So I do think we're going to get into a spot here where we're going to have some significant flash flooding. That was a big boomer right outside the station here. I'm sure you're hearing some big boomers at home too. I mean, this has been tremendous amounts of lightning, just constant lightning. This is a flash flood warning, I believe, which really encompasses all the spots that are dealing with the heavy rain right now. It's not moving much. And there's going to be some additional storms paralleling I-40. You call them training storms. Imagine train cars lined up in a line, rumbling down the tracks. They're one after another, after another, after another. When that happens, you get flooding. As it goes until 11:15 tonight. Does include all of Shelby County, includes all of Crittenden County, and back into Cross County and St. Francis County as well. We've had so much rain already, and we're expecting another additional at least couple inches in most areas, if not a little bit more than that. It's going to lead to some flash flooding on the road. So my best advice for you tonight is if you don't have to head out, don't head out, because it's just a ton of water on the roads. You think about hydroplaning and all those types of concerns. It's just a night to settle in. Again, if you don't have to be out on the roads, please just stay on inside and let this whole mess comes through, because we're going to get so much better weather by sunrise tomorrow. All this will be gone. We have calmer, quieter conditions. Might get a couple of showers, stray showers tomorrow, but much drier weather. Cooler temperatures and all that built up stickiness, the humidity the last couple of days, that's all getting wiped out over the next 24 hours. So the rest of this week is some really comfortable air settling in for us. Just got to get through this evening and this mass of weather that we have right now. Let me put it all into motion here for you. Again, everything is sliding straight east almost. Again, that's why I said it's kind of paralleling I-40. Almost the entire county of St. Francis County in the last 30 minutes has had lightning strikes within your vicinity, no matter where you are. I mean, that's just a blob of lightning, big ball of electricity. And this is no picnic either, that's diving south and southeast. Kind of in behind these storms. This will all be coming into Cross County and portions of Poinsett County as well. In fact, let's do a little storm track on that part. There isn't a whole lot developing back behind this yet, but some of this is the front right here that's getting moving again finally. This is the front that kind of drifted our way last night, produced severe storms around northern Shelby County late last night, like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, lifted back to the north as a warm front, stalled out, and now it's picking up speed again and moving along. That's why it's going to feel so much more comfortable over the next 24 hours, because we're getting behind the front. But as it does so, this could allow for some additional shower and storm development back west along I-40 near Little Rock that would then pivot through these same areas. And that's a lot of water that has to come through. So slow moving, heavy thunderstorms, always a bad recipe for flooding, particularly when you're talking about areas that have already had several inches of rain. So back towards Searcy, Arkansas, and north and west of Augusta, up near Newport, that little cluster. Let's do a storm track on this. Let me get a speed on this real quick, because I want to make sure this is as accurate as possible for folks in Cross County, because again, it's fairly quiet right now in western Cross County. You're going to quiet down for a little bit, but then this is going to be approaching you again, and even some of this could get back down into St. Francis County. Moving east at 55. So let me update my storm track here for a minute. I may already have it at 55 from storms earlier in the day that we were tracking. Yes, we do. Okay, so let me zoom out a little bit. We'll get you a storm track there for Cross County. And I'm going to take it all the way down to include St. Francis County, just in case that activity develops a little bit more to the south and west. Something like this. So wind 907. It is 8:25 now. So this will be with you in the next 45 minutes, 50 minutes or so. Earl 921. So this is more heavy rain on top of waterlogged areas. Remember, I showed you some of those rainfall amounts over the last 24 hours that are approaching 7 inches, and more heavy rain back behind this. So undoubtedly someone's going to end up with almost 9 inches of rain in 24 hours when this is all said and done. That's again, just a lot of water. It's going to lead to flash flooding in a lot of spots. So Cotton Plant 902, Wind 907, Earl 921. And ultimately all this weather is going to come through the Memphis metro, because it's all just tracking in that way. The cold front's not moving fast enough to kind of shove all this south in a hurry. So it's all paralleling I-40 for the most part, which is really what has ramped up the flash flooding threat so far this evening. Quick look at what we have left of our tornado warning for the next 4 minutes. And again, if they don't reissue this and there's no additional threats in terms of tornadic activity, we're going to get off the air, and we may decide to stay with you on streaming for a little while, just because of the flash flooding that's unfolding in a lot of spots around the Memphis metro, and a lot of folks being affected by that. So if you're watching us on Facebook or WREG.com or the WREG weather app, any number of our outlets, WREG Plus app on your smart TV. We're probably going to stay with you here, even if we sign off channel 3, if this tornado warning is allowed to be canceled at or expired at 8:30. The rotation there is still not significant. There's maybe a little spot southeast of Widener, kind of right in here. Here's County Road 728, County Road 723. You're out in the country here. Maybe a little broad rotation trying to spin up a little something. Nothing overly concerning right now. Let me look further on down to the south and see if there's anything. There's a little rotation near Tunica, interestingly enough. I wonder if they're going to do anything with that, because that's almost more impressive to me than what we have up in St. Francis County right now, just from, again, a scientific perspective. There's certainly more rotation approaching Tunica and coming kind of across Tunica County. Yeah, right there. That could certainly prompt a new tornado warning. We'll keep a close eye on that. If you're in Tunica County, if you're in northwestern Tate County, let's watch this one closely. No guarantee they issue a tornado warning, but that is more significant rotation than what we have in St. Francis County right now. Again, what triggered the tornado warning in St. Francis County was about 30 minutes ago, 25 minutes ago, back here. See it there? That was what prompted the tornado warning. Had a brief confirmation of that near Widener, and then it fell apart. Yes, there's little pockets of rotation, none of which are overly concerning, but this right there is more. They need to warn that. I don't know why they're not warning that. I'm going to go ahead and tell you. Well, it's just there's rotation, but it's not co-located so much with the reflectivity. Look at our shear product real quick. That's interesting. That's really interesting. There's something going on in Tunica County right now, just south of Tunica, near Evansville, crossing Highway 61, that is significant rotation. I'm just waiting to see what their thought process is here at the National Weather Service, because you're seeing what I'm seeing at home, folks. That is pretty significant rotation there, but it's just not co-located necessarily with where the reflectivity is. That may just be an issue of all the heavy rain up in Millington. You folks there in Tunica County, let me just do one thing and look at it with our terminal Doppler. This is the radar site out of, it's in southern DeSoto County. It's used for the airport. That's really interesting. They have not warned this yet, but to be honest, there isn't anything. Bear with me for a second. Yeah, they're watching it, but they've not pulled the trigger on a warning. We've got a new scan coming in. Very, very interesting here in Tunica County right now. It's again significant rotation. It doesn't look to be bad data because of how it's being presented, but it's certainly not located with any sort of rainfall. Usually you'd see it with either rain wrapped or a hook or something, but this is a different product. This is our shear product. Our shear product also picking up on significant rotation. I mean, you start getting into these greenish orangey colors, especially that's significant rotation to be paying attention to. They've expired the tornado warning in St. Francis County. So you folks up there in St. Francis County, you're good. We've kind of walked you through that as that was issued. There's still, again, little tiny pockets of rotation or here and there, nothing imminent, but they've allowed that warning to expire. We're going to stay with you here for a couple minutes until they kind of sort things out on this Tunica storm, because they're just reassessing now. What's given me a little pause on just saying you need to be in your safe spot there is, again, just because it doesn't line up. It doesn't look like bad data to me, but it also does not line up with any sort of meaningful hook. Very, very interesting right now. So let's just keep a close eye on this stuff in Tunica County for now until they make a decision on what path forward they want to take with that. Again, there's also still some rotation in parts of St. Francis County, not enough to have a tornado warning in effect right now. But you see that, again, we were just kind of talking in here. It's very broad, nothing of concern, but near Rawlinson, something I'm watching. A lot of wind, regardless of rotation, a lot of wind. There have been storms at times today that have produced 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts. I don't know that I buy 85 right now, but there's some wind in Lee County right now and up into southeastern St. Francis County, south and west of Hughes. And that Tunica stuff is still just very, very interesting. The rotation's a bit weaker, but it's still there. All right, we'll step away from that one for a second, and we're keeping a close eye on it for you folks in Tunica and especially western Tate County and southwestern DeSoto. Let's go area wide and kind of just get a full view of where all the storms are right now. And the areas that are getting picked on will continue to get picked on as we go through the next couple of hours. This isn't really all going to wind down until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning that we start to see some improvement. So heavy rain. All of Shelby County pretty much is in heavy rain. DeSoto County is kind of half and half right now. It's pouring along and west of 55. There's not much going on down Goodman right now other than light rain for the most part. You get over into Olive Branch, you're right at the edge of the rain, down towards Lewisburg, Cockrum. It's dry right now, but all this, again, is going to be drifting on in, and some very heavy rain, again, will start coming on down. All of Shelby County kind of enshrouded in heavy rain. Fisherville, Germantown, Collierville, downtown Memphis. Guys, if you have any cameras here in the city that you'd like to pull up, please let me know as well. I mean, I'm sure we're just seeing nothing but heavy rain and constant lightning, but it is a visual for us. All of Crittenden County filled in with heavy rain. Gets a little bit lighter down towards Horseshoe Lake. Very heavy rain in eastern St. Francis County. See what our velocity data is like there. There's still some little pockets of rotation west of Hughes. Nothing tight enough to warrant a new tornado warning right now. But the reason we're staying with you here on Channel 3 is just because of how quickly things are changing. And because of the rotation that is present, and they're kind of evaluating all that, we may very well get a new tornado warning at any second, either for something in southeastern St. Francis County or for activity in Tunica County, which does look less impressive now than it did. And it is falling apart, which is good to see. But, man, you see a few minutes ago there, go back just a couple, right? That was very ominous to see that sort of rotation near Evansville, and I'm hoping we don't see any damage reports come in for a storm that was unwarned in central Tunica County, but it has certainly weakened dramatically. Less of a concern now, which is, again, good to see as it heads over towards Arkabutla. But that was interesting for sure, just because of how it was being presented, and no tornado warning on that. So here's where we stand. No rotation that's enough to trigger a tornado warning right now. Areas of concern that we're watching, but nothing imminent. Let's do a quick kind of layout of how the rest of the evening is going to go. Pull up our high-res product. Bear with me for just a second. There we go. So here we stand at about 8:30, and this is initializing very well, so it's got a good idea of how the rest of the evening is going to play out. It has all our storms in St. Francis County. It's got that activity kind of coming in behind it. So a good initialization means a good product going forward of kind of playing out how the atmosphere will look as we go forward in time. Very heavy rain through 9, 10 o'clock all around Shelby County. Perhaps we get a little break, kind of quiets down in St. Francis County before that next kind of batch swings in. Here's 10 o'clock, very heavy rain north and south. Very heavy rain across North Mississippi. 10, 11, 12. There's still pockets of heavy rain winding down closer to midnight. More heavy rain in DeSoto County. It's all kind of getting south of I-40 by midnight, 1 a.m. And then we're into Oxford and Batesville, 278 corridor. Again, it's interesting. I'll play this out till sunrise, then we're going to go back for a second. You get to about 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, it's gone. Sunrise, quiet, couple spotty showers. But you see that cold front kind of kicking into gear, moving at a little quicker pace as we go through the next few hours. Everything's kind of shooting east, but then watch the cold front catch up to it, and it starts to move south and drift into northern Mississippi. So that's kind of how it's going to play out between now and 2 o'clock in the morning. And then after that point, our southern counties will clear up, and we'll be much quieter and drier and calmer. We're going to need the dry weather after all this heavy rain that has come through over the last 24 hours. And it really has been the last 24 hours. Remember, the storms last night didn't really move into our viewing area until after 11:30 in our far northeastern Arkansas counties. So it's really just been the last 20 hours, and that's a lot of rain in 20 hours. Check on the radar one more time, and then we will get off the air here at Channel 3 and get you back to your regular programming. But we are going to continue with you on our streaming platform, so don't worry, we're not going to leave you hanging. But just to kind of get things back to normal business as usual on TV, since we no longer have any tornado warnings. Not seeing anything imminent in the velocity data right now. Again, little broad areas of rotation, nothing concerning. Some very gusty winds, everything below severe limits for the time being. Very heavy rain, and as I told you at 6 o'clock, I think the bigger issue is going to be the flash flooding that is already unfolding and will continue to unfold. I mean, since I've been on the air here for the last 30 minutes, I'm sure you kind of hear the noise over my microphone on top of our roof. It's been nonstop heavy rain. We're right about here. It's been pouring for 30 to 45 minutes, and it's going to continue to keep coming down, coming down, coming down. It's quieting down a bit back towards Forest City. You still got some rain in Forest City now. Quiet towards Goodwin, but there is more activity coming in from the north and west that may clip you that far south. I think a lot of this will probably go more so into Cross County and Poinsett County rather than into western St. Francis County, but it could also build a little bit further to the south as well as the cold front kind of comes into play here. So we may get some additional heavy rain developing closer to I-40, which then would swing into St. Francis County. So a busy evening ahead for us, but it is mainly a flooding issue, and it is coming down. Stay off the roads if you can this evening. If we get any other additional tornado warnings or any other need to jump in on the air here on Channel 3, we will do just that. Otherwise, we will see you on News Channel 3 at 10. If you're on our streaming platforms, we will stay with you there for a little while longer and keep you apprised of the flooding situation. So for now, thanks for tuning in here on TV, and we'll continue over on our streaming platforms. Thanks. Have a good night. All right, so folks, we are off the air here at Channel 3. We've got those folks back to regular programming. If you're still interested in what's going on with this weather, which is, of course, just a big, soggy mess, I'm going to stay with you for a little bit here on our streaming platforms, just to keep you apprised of some of the flooding issues and flooding reports. Flash flooding response. I'm just reading some of the stuff from our National Weather Service folks. Flash flooding response across Shelby County, and there are some pretty significant rainfall rates moving into the county as well. And yeah, we can verify that just listening to our roofs. Let's look at some of the rainfall rates that we have right now. And some of this, yeah, pull up the parking lot cam, whatever you guys want to do. Non-stop lightning, tremendous amounts of lightning. That view is looking north up towards the I-40 bridge, which you're just not going to see right now because of how heavy the rain is. But anything in these pinks and purples, which is a good chunk of what you're seeing here, is 3 to 4 inches per hour. Here's the thing. Usually when we get rainfall rates like that, thunderstorms are moving along decent enough that they're not hanging around for an hour. You maybe get 2 inches if it rains that hard for half an hour. You just got to do the math there. But a lot of this is hanging out for an hour or two. So we're really going to start to run into some flash flooding issues where you're having 2, 3, 4 inch per hour rainfall rates lasting for an hour or two, if not longer. So this is really going to quickly unfold into a flash flooding problem around the Memphis metro. We've already gotten a lot of reports of flash flooding. There's 4.7 inches per hour. North of the city right now, there's some spots that are very similar, 6.75 inches an hour. Sometimes you get hail contamination in this, but this isn't hail contamination. This is just heavy, heavy, heavy rain. Look at this down towards Olive Branch right now. I just clicked on this pocket right here. It's right where Olive Branch is. That was about 4.5 inches per hour. So it's just pouring. I mean, this is tremendous amounts of rain. In a way, we're thankful for it because of how dry it's been and the extreme drought that we have, but it's obviously not good to get it all at once. And to get potentially 8-9 inches of rain like we're talking about in southwestern Cross County, back in here we've already got about 7, and there's additional rain to come in 24 hours. I don't know that I've seen that. Not since maybe last April when we had that Saturday when there were some spots picking up a foot of rain in some cases in 24 hours. That would be very similar. And we had a lot of flooding in Crittenden County and a lot of Arkansas as well last April too, where there were water rescues, neighborhoods underwater. And I'm just hoping that doesn't materialize here, but we're getting to that point where it's going to start to become a problem if it's not already in your neighborhood. Those low-lying spots, the poor drainage areas, you know what I'm talking about, where you just say, my neighborhood always floods. Or there's that dip in the road and the water can't escape down to the drain. That's always a problem on that road I drive down. Those spots will be problematic. If it typically is wet in a thunderstorm and standing water in a thunderstorm, there's going to be problems there for sure on a night like tonight. Nothing new from the National Weather Service right now. So all we have is just a big blob of very heavy rain through the metro, and it's going to continue for a little while. These are not in a hurry to move on out. I know it looks like they're speeding up, but these are more so the individual parts of the storm racing northeast, but then the blob itself isn't moving or it's even back building. So it's really not doing much in terms of hurrying up to get out of here. We need it to stop. And unfortunately, I'd say here in the city, we got at least another hour to 2 hours of the current rain that we have now coming down. So that's going to be a problem. Guys, any road cameras around the city of Memphis right now that we have, or even West Memphis, or anything at all that we have that you can pull up? I know sometimes we get some spots on the interstate on the 240 loop that are clogged drains where you get a lane or two of traffic that are backed up and you can't pass until the rain stops. Anything like that you can relay along to me, please let me know, and that'd be a good thing to pass along for now. I do think we'll start to get more and more reports rolling in, but it is a good thing the time of day. It's not 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's not the evening commute. Most folks are home and settled in, and this is just coming in. Where is this at now? I-40 in Watkins, some slow going, obviously, with the heavy rain. It's dark. Obviously, we can't see much, but I would urge you, if you have to be out tonight, you're going to encounter some low-lying flooding on the roads, standing water on the roads, I should say. You can easily hydroplane. This is not a night to be driving around 60, 70 miles per hour, even on the interstate. You got to go slow, because you hit that little patch of water, it's an inch or two deep, and you start sliding, and your senses take over and you kind of freak out a little bit. You can crash into the side barrier, crash into another car. Do not race around town on a night like tonight. And if you can, just avoid going out altogether. Because again, I'm telling you, there's going to be flooding that is developing and ongoing for the next few hours until we can get the rain to stop and then the drains to start to catch up a little bit. Remember, the round that came through earlier today dropped a couple inches of rain here in the city. And now we're talking about another 2 or 3 inches, if not a little bit more than that in isolated pockets. That's a tremendous amount of rain in a very short period of time. I showed you the 24-hour rainfall totals. Let's look at just the last 12 hours. So this is just encompassing the storms from this afternoon till now. There's spots in northern Shelby County, 3.5 inches. So that was just from the storms in that batch that rolled through, where it wasn't even that long of a time. It was an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours of a window where it was pouring, and we got 3.5 inches of rain just north of downtown in parts of North Memphis and Fraser and Shelby Forest. Then you go back into Arkansas, west of Proctor, 5.7 inches of rain in 12 hours. Again, this is not the whole event, not including the storms last night. This is just today. This is, again, a lot of rain. And as I mentioned earlier, when you have a drought, you can almost get worse flooding when you get all the rain at once, because it all runs off. It doesn't tend to get absorbed into the soil very quickly, especially at the onset. Usually if it rains once, we can loosen up the ground a little bit, and then a couple of days later we get another round of rain. That's the type of thing you want to ease the drought in the right way. You do it all at once like this, all the water tends to run off and collect in certain areas, and then you start to get flooding, particularly in roads. Back west of Wynn, kind of right behind me, 5.3 inches just in the last 12 hours. So a lot of eastern Arkansas and a lot of the metro, 2 to 4 to, in some cases, close to 6 inches of rain, and it is still pouring right now. Again, that is just rain today, and then you're adding on top of it all of this, which is not in a hurry to clear out of here. So big time flood issues. They're ongoing. They're continuing the flash flood warning. I'll just read you the text here. 8:45 Central Time, emergency management reporting thunderstorms producing heavy rain across the warned area. Between 1.5 to 2 inches of rain has fallen. We can make a case that a heck of a lot. I think they're alluding to just the storms now that have onset of the last couple hours. We've picked up another 1 to 3 inches of rain generally. An additional 1 to 3 inches of rain is possible where we have the flash flood warning, which is again all of these spots, all of Shelby County, all of Crittenden County, all of Cross County, and all of St. Francis County. The areas where the storms have been picking on you for the last few hours, that's where the flash flood warning is ongoing, which makes sense. There may need to be additional flash flood warnings later on tonight, depending on how it evolves. Maybe DeSoto County or maybe even north, just on the whole setup. I'd say it's more likely further south of I-40 because ultimately that's where all the storms will start to feed into, areas south rather than moving north, because remember the front is catching up with us and starting to shove everything in that way over the next few hours. Hasn't changed a whole lot, has it? I mean, when you really look at, let me put on this for like a 2-hour loop, just to give you an idea of, fortunately I can't get our radar to go, there we go. So that's 2 hours. It only it catches up in the last hour. Let's do an hour then. There we go. So some of this is cleared out, but it was raining before then. It's filled in tremendously across Shelby County this is just the last hour. It was raining prior to that. This is at least going to be ongoing in its current state for the next 60 to 90 minutes. And I'd say favor the long side. It could be 2 hours that what we're dealing with now is going to keep going on. That's more than another 1 to 2 inches. That's potentially another 3 to 4 inches of rain in a very, very short period of time. There are some signs that we're seeing a tail end of this, which is good, but it's not until you get back here, back towards Searcy. Like Searcy's probably done for the night in Arkansas. All this is still sitting with us and then pivoting south, and then there's likely to be some additional shower and storm development south of I-40 in Arkansas. All that has to wind through. When the cold front catches up, that could spark additional downpours. So this is going to be a little while until we start to say we're done with this for the night. But unfortunately, it's our most populated areas and all the city streets and all the concrete that tends to favor city flooding and street flooding. And that is the spots that have just tremendous amounts of rain right now. Thankfully, we haven't seen too many reports of stalled cars or anything like that. There is a new severe thunderstorm warning that's going to be coming out momentarily for DeSoto and parts of Shelby County, and it's probably going to be for this right there. I've got this on a 1-hour loop, but I'll stop it in a second. This little Boeing segment is probably going to have some wind in it, so they're going to warn that. Guys, I may decide to go back on TV depending on where the warning is drawn. So let's wait for the warning to come out. And if it does include a decent chunk of the metro here, we're probably going to go back on TV just to give you a heads up. So we're waiting for that warning to come out. They're drawing it up now at the Storm Prediction Center, or excuse me, at the National Weather Service. They're also going to say a tornado possible tag. Now, this does not mean a tornado warning. That means that they're going to issue a severe thunderstorm warning, but with the caveat in their warning text of, hey, there's also the possibility that something spins up and maybe we need to issue a tornado warning. It's kind of the precursor to that. It does not mean that anything is imminent in that regard, but just relaying, of course, what they're going to do with the warning. So the warning should be out any minute. If it's not out already, it's going to be for this little Boeing segment here because of some of the wind speeds in it. So warning looks like it's just coming in. There you go. So it does include southern Shelby County. It does include much of DeSoto County. And yes, guys in the back, let's get us back on TV for this, and we'll walk this through for the southern half of our Memphis Metro viewing area. So you give me a little countdown, folks on our stream. Bear with us for a second and take a little pause, and we'll get back on TV and we'll get things rolling again. Hey folks, Chief Meteorologist Tyler Lyson back with you. We decided to jump back on Channel 3 for you here. I know we're interrupting programs throughout the evening, but understand it's a pretty volatile situation with not only the flooding threat, but we now have a new severe thunderstorm warning that does have the caveat in the warning text of a tornado possible. Does not mean that there's an imminent threat for a tornado. However, it's just a precursor to say, hey, we're watching some rotation, maybe trying to get going. There is the possibility of a tornado warning at some point. For now, it's a severe thunderstorm warning, and it's for southern Shelby County and much of DeSoto County. It's tough to see because of all the heavy rain, but it's for this little Boeing line segment. We've seen these kind of evolve a couple times tonight, and usually it's been what has produced wind damage. There's earlier up in Tipton County. There were other spots out east earlier tonight with storms that have had these little Boeing segments that have produced wind damage because you can have winds upwards of 60, 70 miles per hour. Here's the warning by itself. Does include southeastern portions of Crittenden County, but it's really crossing the river now, and all of southern Shelby County and much of DeSoto County. Does include Hernando, South Haven, Horn Lake, Nesbitt, Olive Branch, all the way over to Byhalia. And then you get into southern Shelby County, it's Whitehaven, it's parts of South Memphis, south of 240, includes the airport, over to Capleville, does include Oakville, does not include downtown. It's southern Shelby County, and again, the airport, and particularly central portions of DeSoto County and northern portions of DeSoto County. So where is the area of concern right now? Again, it's this little Boeing segment, and it looks, we call it a Boeing segment because you think about a bow and arrow, right? You pull back the bow, has that curve to it. You tend to get a lot of wind rushing through the middle of this, rushing out, which gives it that little bow to it, and that's where you can have some really, really strong winds. So the winds right now, let me sample some of them. There's little pockets in here that are probably pushing 60 miles per hour in some of this. We'll see. Let's sample a little bit of it. And you see the quick wind shift. There's a 58. A lot of this is probably in the mid to high 50s, 58, 58. And we're fairly close to the radar site. And you know what? A better radar view is going to be the terminal Doppler out of, maybe not. Terminal Doppler is located just north of Hernando. It's used for downburst detection for approaching planes into the airport. You see where it's located there. May not be getting the best view at the moment, but with that abrupt wind shift, what happens is you're kind of doing like this along the line, and you can get little spin-ups from time to time, which is why they had that caveat in the text of a tornado possible tag, just because it's very possible that at some point this spins up and there's a new tornado warning somewhere. For now, it's just a severe thunderstorm warning, but it does include a good chunk of DeSoto County. Walls and Horn Lake, you're included in this, anywhere up and down 301, down to 69. Again, South Haven, Horn Lake, all the way over to Olive Branch. I believe even like Lewisburg was included in the warning. So it goes out a pretty good ways. You see there, it includes Hernando, down to Cockrum, all of eastern DeSoto County, and then it just kind of cuts off to the north and west as you get closer to where the actual line is. It's possible that they expand this further south if the tail end of that little bow starts to flare up a little bit more, becomes more ominous. Right now, you're getting a ton of rain, obviously, in DeSoto County, a little bit of a lull in spots, but what's going to happen for you folks in Walls first, it's going to pick up intense rainfall very, very quickly, and you're going to get some really gusty winds as this leading edge of this, which really extends almost into the city right now. I'm a little surprised at how skinny they've drawn the warning, because you can make a case they could have gone like here all the way up into downtown Memphis, because it's not that different a few miles further north. Regardless, everybody's getting rough weather, so it's not just the warned area. As you know, if you live anywhere in the Memphis metro, it's pouring right now, and we're really quickly getting into a situation with flash flooding that's going to be a problem. Still watching, keeping a close eye on the rotation, because that's a big aspect to this, and a big reason why we're on the air for the severe thunderstorm warning. If this tightens up to a point, I'm particularly looking at this little notch right here. It's not tight, but it is trying to organize a little bit more. If it does, they'll issue a new tornado warning for many of the same areas that are included in the severe thunderstorm warning. So don't be surprised here in the next couple minutes if you see a tornado warning pop up that does include DeSoto County. We're not there yet, but it's something we're watching very, very closely. And I'm just checking a lot of information that's coming into our newsroom now about these storms from the National Weather Service. All right. So we'll watch that near walls. Again, I'm not seeing anything imminent right now, but that little kind of notch, if you will, into the line segment could be a spot that some rotation could tighten. Now, it typically does not last long. It may only be 5 or 10 minutes, but if it does tighten up, again, it would be enough to trigger the tornado warning, and we'll go from there. Little report of road flooding, Highway 149 from Perkins Road in Poinsett County around the Black Oak community to the Cross County line. So that is referring to flooding in Arkansas in Poinsett and Cross County, all spots that have dealt with tremendous amounts of rain. If maybe you weren't with us on streaming, you're just joining us now on TV, there have been spots in Cross County and Poinsett County and St. Francis County and Crittenden County that have had 7 inches of rain, if not a little bit more now, in the last 24 hours. And in spots, it's been over 5 inches just today. And that's really in the last 6 hours since the storms got going this afternoon. And now it's pouring even more heavy rains. This is quickly evolving into a flash flooding situation for all of the Memphis metro, and then back into Crittenden County, Cross County, and St. Francis County. All those counties I just mentioned in an ongoing flash flood warning. So if you can, just stay off the roads tonight. It's not smart to be out. If for some reason you have to be out, maybe you have an overnight shift or something like that, take it very, very easy. You don't want to be in the interstate going normal interstate speeds and hit a puddle of water and you hydroplane. That's bad, bad news. So take it real, real slow as this stuff comes on through. It's going to be a while until this starts to lighten up a bit. New tornado warning just out. I'm waiting for that to populate on our screen. It is going to be for northwestern DeSoto County. So you folks in DeSoto County, it's a very small area. So walls in your safe spot now. This is going to include Horn Lake as well, Twin Lakes, over into parts of South Haven. It's across I-55 into parts of South Haven over to 302. So let's for now focus on areas west of I-55, because oftentimes, again, these don't last long. Maybe we get here and it falls apart, but we're not there yet. So let's focus on where we are now, and let's just see how this evolves over time. It's hopefully only a scan or two, but you see it trying to tighten up a little bit back towards Lake Cormorant and Glover. South of Walls now is where I would see the most significant rotation. Let me look at our shear product and see if that's tightening up a little bit. A little bit. It hasn't quite caught up with the latest scan, but it is certainly there. South of Glover, kind of right in here. So it's now east of Highway 61. If you live west of 61, particularly like back closer to the river, you get into a pretty unpopulated area closer to the river. But if you live that far west, you're out of the threat here. This is 61 eastward, approaching 301. Twin Lakes and Days and Dean's Corner be in your safe spot now until this moves east of you. There's rotation there. It's not particularly tight, but it is enough, certainly, to trigger the tornado warning. Let me see when this warning goes until. This is going to go until 9:15, so the next 15 minutes. Remember, I said short-lived. They're only issuing the warning for 15 minutes in anticipation of this likely being short-lived. It's moving east at 35, so let me give you a storm track for some arrival times. And again, the warning is very skinny. It's like this over to here, and it cuts off just on the other side of 55. So we're just going to encompass those areas in particular. I'm going to do a little bit different shape of a storm track to try and give you the most accurate. I don't want to give arrival times for spots that aren't going to have to deal with this necessarily. So we're going to do something like this and take it straight east, basically just the warned area, because the tornado warning is very, very skinny. Days 907, Alden's 911, Jago 915. So getting to I-55 within the next 10 minutes. It's not going to take long. Again, it's moving at 35 miles an hour. So you imagine making that drive from 61 over to 55. It doesn't take that long if you're moving 35, 40 miles per hour. So it'll get there somewhat quickly. And I'm just hoping it doesn't stick around for too long or increase in intensity. It's still fairly weak, but something to pay attention to for sure. So if you got alerted to this and you're in DeSoto County, in the areas that you were, because of how tight they've drawn the warning, usually if they draw the warning a little bit wider to account for everything, then we can cross some folks off and say, okay, you're not in this, you're not in this case. If you got the warning on your phone, please get in your safe spot now, because they've drawn this so skinny, it's just for an area that would truly be in a threat. So if you got the warning on your phone and it went off, not because you're seeing us on TV, but because it went off on your phone, that means you're in that warned area. You need to be in your safe spot now. Again, this is moving east of 61 and will quickly cross 301 and head over towards probably just north of Nesbitt on its current motion. Let me roll this back just a scan or two. It's moving truly right in that box, because if there's anything, this notch here would be kind of an area to watch for a potential tornado. So this is moving east, a little bit south of due east. So that would take it to near Nesbitt or a little bit just north of Nesbitt. The warning itself, I believe, goes all the way over to near Getwell. Let me pull that up for a second. You can see the warning line. Yeah, so the warning goes over to Getwell. So if you're along Church Road, we're talking to areas east of 55 now, just to give you the earliest heads up, because again, this won't take very long, 15 minutes to get over into some of these spots. If you're along Church Road, if you're just south down to near Nesbitt, what is it? Pleasant Hill kind of hooks over, I believe. Yeah, Pleasant Hill kind of hooks over through Nesbitt. So Church Road down to Pleasant Hill near Nesbitt, particularly east of 55 is what I'm talking about. Those spots, I'd really watch this closely because of this motion being more southeast and east-southeast rather than straight east that would take it over into like the middle of South Haven, closer to like the Walmart and the Best Buy. I think this is going to go far south of those locations. This is more so between those spots and the Church Road exit down to near Nesbitt and the Pleasant Hill exit there. So, let's just be smart with where you've been alerted to this, where you have the warning, and make sure you're getting into your safe spot for those particular locations. If you're west of 55, you're absolutely in your safe spot in Twin Lakes, yes, Horn Lake, but I do think this will go just south of you, more so over towards Alden's, anywhere along Church Road. There's days, kind of any of these spots that I'm mentioning between Goodman all the way down to Star Landing. West of 55, east of 61 now, because this is past 61 and moving off to the east. Let's see what the latest velocity scan is. It's loosened a little bit, which is good news. I hope that trend continues. It's still broad, still enough to continue the tornado warning, but you see our shear product, just another way to represent spin in the atmosphere. It's definitely there. And again, this lags a scan because it's kind of calculating where the shear is based off the velocity data, but that's significant. I know it doesn't look like a lot, but in terms of this product, that's a lot. So I'm hoping to see that diminish as well, like the velocity scan has diminished a bit as we've gone forward in time. There's a clear notch here. Obviously, what this is, remember, you're looking at wind, you're not looking at rain. So you see the radar beam going around. It's up in Millington. We're shooting it from the northeast, looking into this storm. Anything in reddish color is wind moving away from the radar site. Anything in green is wind moving towards the radar site. So what does that give us, right? This gives us the rotation all along this line. Remember I said this kind of motion, right? You're kind of kicking off a little spin. Remember doing like starting a fire with a stick, right? That kind of thing. You get that rotation, and then you get these little notches where there's inflow into that line, and when that happens, it usually will trigger a tornado warning from the National Weather Service because you get little quick spin-ups of rotation that can tighten for a short time. They're very short-lived usually, but sometimes they do hang around. So we'll just have to see how this evolves. But there's clearly a notch there, and I hope that I kind of illustrated that well so you can understand kind of what's going on in the atmosphere. There's our new scan that came in, and this is better. This is good to see that the notch is less pronounced. The rotation is much broader. It's not confined or defined in one particular area. Doesn't mean the threat's gone, but maybe a lull, and I'm hoping it's a permanent lull and that this has gone away and that we're done with it. The warning goes for another 9 minutes. I'm just checking to see if they had anything else, any notes on this that they're deciding to do with it. 301 at 302, so right in here looking west, you said? Okay, so just north of Twin Lakes looking west. That's the camera view over my left shoulder on the left side of your screen there. We're not going to see much, unfortunately, just the time of day and all this is heavy rain. Yeah, I wish that was more useful for us, but a lot of lightning, but we're just not going to see anything for our tornado confirmation, but appreciate it, guys. Keep an eye out for any cameras further east that we might be able to use closer to the interstate. If this is still holding on at that point, crossing the interstate, there's a lot of cameras in that area we could potentially make of good use. So for now, the warning goes for another 10 minutes now. We'll watch this, but this is the most improved it's looked in a good way, that it's hopefully falling apart and will stay on a weaker note with no additional new areas of rotation trying to develop. I'm going to look at our debris signature here, go back a few minutes just to see if anything popped up at any point that would have been concerning or maybe indicative of, and I know it's a lot of colors that don't make sense, just bear with me for a second for my own use, just making sure. Yeah, nothing concerning to me that we had debris there, so that's good news. So where does that leave us? Tornado warning goes for another 9 minutes now. It's 9:06. You have some very rough weather. Well, we've got a little bit of a lull in the rotation aspect of this. Nothing imminent. You're still in your safe spot there if you got alerted to the warning on your phone, because remember, that's GPS located. You're using the WREG radar app, for instance. It's for your house. Wherever your GPS is, wherever your phone is, that means you're in the tornado warned area. That's why the warning comes across on your phone and you get alerted to it. So if you were alerted for the warning, you need to be in your safe spot now, because these can change very quickly and spin up for a scan and then go away, then spin back up again. Let's make sure it's completely out of here, then we get the warning canceled. I will say that if you're west of the leading edge of this, so almost west of 301, if you're anywhere west of 301 in DeSoto County, your threat for any tornado is over. It's now, again, only along the leading edge of this, approaching the interstate over the next few minutes, but it is much weaker now than it was a few scans ago. So what we have is a nasty line of storms, very heavy rain that does arc. Let's talk about Shelby County for a second. This goes all the way up into Midtown and portions of East Memphis and Berkeley and just east of Nutbush. Bartlett's very heavy rain all the way up to the radar site. It's kind of like one long little line. And this particular portion of it was bowing out in a way that was indicating very strong wind gusts. And then right after that happened, there was a little bit of rotation that triggered the tornado warning. So you have the severe thunderstorm warning, and then you have the tornado warning embedded within that in that very small area. The severe thunderstorm warning could easily be trimmed back now. And I see that they've trimmed back the tornado warning, it looks like, which is great news. Kind of what I was just saying, there's no more threat west of 301. So they've trimmed the tornado warning, the areas west of 301, out of it. The severe thunderstorm warning, you can make the same case that they could trim this, because it's really on the leading edge of this line, which is now coming into South Haven here shortly. It's right over the airport. Guys, do we have our airport camera by chance? It may be out with the heavy rain and all the strong winds that we've had today, but if it is up, that would be a good view right over the airport right now, because it's pouring right over the airport and down into South Haven here. And Horn Lake, your rainfall rates are picking up. There's the airport there. You're not going to see much, but I can make out the runway lights maybe a little bit. Looks like the camera picture may be frozen, which isn't surprising given how rough the weather is right now. Over top of that camera view just north of the airport along 240 looking south over the runways. Normally a beautiful view. You can see planes landing, but obviously not on a night like tonight. They still are continuing the tornado warning until 9:15. Doesn't mean anything's changed. They've just decided, let's keep it in place for now. Let's let this run till 9:15 and decide at that point if anything's tightening. This is the weakest I've seen it, which is, again, great news. The rotation has gone away. There's still that abrupt wind shift to a little bit lesser degree than there was maybe 15, 20 minutes ago, but it is still a significant wind shift where, again, you're getting very strong winds this way and very strong winds this way. You can kick off another little area of rotation in spots. Regardless of rotation, though, there's some strong wind in this, 50 to 60 miles per hour, and that is why there's also the severe thunderstorm warning that's ongoing. Let me sample some of these higher pixels, see what we got. 57, that was down near Nesbitt. Up near Horn Lake, maybe a 40, yep. So usually what we do is we'll shave 10 or 15% off some of those numbers, just as you get further and further away from the radar site, you're sampling higher. Remember, the radar beam goes out and it elevates higher into the storm the further you are from the radar site. Let me pull up our terminal Doppler again and see if we have a better view now there's so much heavy rain in these spots, but it's a little more high resolution. You can see now, again, the colors change because of where the radar is located, right? So before, the radar is up there in Millington, we were looking this way, so the radar representation of the wind speeds were different. Now the radar's here, so all the wind is moving towards the radar. Before, it was, again, in a different setup, so that's why that changed like that all of a sudden. But there's a lot of wind in here, all approaching I-55. So your wind speeds are going to pick up to 40 to 50 miles per hour, likely some gusts in that leading edge of that line. But right now, I don't see any signs of imminent rotation that are concerning. So that's excellent news. I'm reading some stuff up here. Bear with me on the National Weather Service. Just want to see what they're saying. Yeah, so they're noting the velocity not as impressive either, which we've been talking about for a few minutes. The reflectivity is still there, where maybe we've got some notches, but the velocity data, the wind in the storm, is not matching up with that in a concerning way for the time being. Let's look elsewhere and just see if there's anything else ominous right now. There is some pretty rough weather that is not severe warned going into Tipton County. We talked a lot about Tipton County earlier today. Similar setup here, where you've got kind of that Boeing line segment coming into southern Tipton County, and these are spots that had a very similar setup earlier today. You had wind damage in Atoka, wind damage up towards Covington, kind of Tabernacle. Some of that got up towards Henning, rolled over into western Haywood County as well. Similar spots in a similar setup, and really it's interesting because this is almost identical to the look of the radar late last night at about 2:30 in the morning, when we had a blob going into central Tipton County and this little Boeing segment arcing down into northwestern Shelby County. I mean, really almost identical to late last night. Very heavy rain, likely some very strong winds in that. Not severe warned right now. They may decide to issue a severe thunderstorm warning for that location, with the caveat of, again, of a tornado possible tag. So far, they're just keeping an eye on it for now. So we'll leave that alone. The only severe warnings that we have at the moment are that severe thunderstorm warning, which we came back on Channel 3. We're already streaming, but jump back on TV with you because of southern Shelby County, much of DeSoto County in that severe thunderstorm warning. But then embedded in that is still that ongoing tornado warning for 3 more minutes. With where it stands right now, I fully anticipate, unless this tightens up again, that they would allow that warning to expire at its expiration time of 9:15. If something tries to tighten up, they'll issue a new tornado warning. There's certainly some brighter colors here indicating some stronger winds, but it's not necessarily at the point where we're getting, typically we're looking for like a couple pixels meeting up in a few spots, and we're looking for that to meet up in one spot to be like, there's your tornado. This isn't that. This is broad rotation over Nesbitt in a wide general area. So if it tightens up a little bit, that would trigger a new tornado warning. Right now, with just the latest data I have, we're not at that point, but certainly keeping a close eye on it. We'll flip back to our terminal Doppler for 1 second. We're getting pretty close to the radar site, yeah, unfortunately, so this isn't going to give us the best view of where we need to look. So we'll continue with regular radar out of Millington for the time being. That will help us, though, once it gets east of the radar site and east of 55. It's so messy on the radar, and we just have a lot of embedded rotation in blobs of rain. The reflectivity isn't going to help us as much tonight, spotting like hooks and things like that. It's just all a mess. But the velocity data is really what we're going to rely on. New tornado warning just came out. So a couple minutes ago, I gave you that little heads up. Could issue a new tornado warning if that rotation tightened a little bit. They've decided to extend the tornado warning for the very same cell that we've been tracking through DeSoto County. So this is now all the way over to Byhalia and almost to Holly Springs. Not quite. The warning stops right here, almost to Holly Springs. So into northwestern Marshall County now goes the tornado warning. The warning does include probably parts of Olive Branch, but not up to Goodman Road. This is the old warning here. So here you got Pleasant Hill. You got like Pleasant Hill Elementary in here. You go deeper into Olive Branch. You get over, there's like the Aldi, there's a couple restaurants, you got Walmart and Home Depot, all those spots. None of that is in the tornado warned area for this new tornado warning. This is going to be further south. You go down Craft Road, you get into the country a little bit more down towards Craft meets up with Church, and then down towards College and Lewisburg. Lewisburg is in the tornado warning now. So where's the rotation stand? Let's see if it's tightened up at all from what we just showed you a minute ago. It is tightening up a bit, just a little bit, maybe more so than the last scan. Let me show you the last scan. It was there, remember it was Broad over Nesbitt, tightening up a little bit, east of 55 now, almost right over 269. It's kind of more so between Pleasant Hill and 269, kind of right in this spot. But it's tracking southeast. That'll take it right over 269 and eventually over towards Lewisburg. So we're in just another situation here where we're tracking it forward in time, looking at each scan, and that's about all we can do, and just giving you as much heads up as we can. With how this is tightened up, if you're in Bright, if you're in Lewisburg, if you're along Byhalia Road, east of 55, here's Byhalia Road, east of 55, south of 269, you're absolutely in your safe spot. Now, Hernando, this is not a problem for you. Nesbitt, this is no longer, again, the broad rotation went right over you. This is east of the interstate now and moving east at about 35 miles per hour. I'll check if they updated the speed on that. But it's going to take it near or maybe just south of Lewisburg, and I'm just hoping it doesn't tighten up anymore. But this is right over Pleasant Hill, maybe a little bit south of Pleasant Hill Road, where Pleasant Hill hooks back to more of an east-west orientation, not further north. So I know we're kind of zoomed way in here. Just for a frame of reference, let me zoom out for a second. I'm not referring to Pleasant Hill north up closer to Goodman. We're referring to Pleasant Hill closer to 269, where it hooks east-west and goes over into Nesbitt, and then you can kind of arc down and go into Hernando. This is that area, and again, we're watching this moving right along 269 over towards Lewisburg right now. Let's give you a fresh storm track. Let me check the speed and make sure they didn't update that in any way. Still 35 miles an hour. Okay, so let's give you a fresh storm track here and give you an arrival time in Lewisburg. But in Bright there, you absolutely need to be getting in your safe spot now. And in Lewisburg here, in the next couple of minutes, you got about 15-20 minutes at its current storm speed. For now, let's watch this. And I understand weekday. What was that? Go ahead. Okay. Pull that up in 1 second. We got a new camera review for it. I know it's a weeknight. We got kids in bed, ready for school tomorrow. If you're in Lewisburg, let's watch this another few minutes, because this could very well go away in the next 5-6 minutes, well before it gets anywhere near Lewisburg to be an issue for you. So what I need you to do there in Lewisburg is, again, just know your safe spot. You have everything ready. Maybe it's a closet. It's the most interior room of your home, away from windows, low level of your home. Just get everything ready. Throw the pillows in there, get whatever you need for the kids, and just wait another few minutes, and let's see what this does. And if it gets to the point that we're 5-6 minutes down the road and it's holding on to this sustained rotation, then we can say, okay, got to do it. Let's wake up the kids. Let's get them in the safe spot. So let's hold off there in Lewisburg. Let's watch this closely. You're in the tornado warning. You're up. You were alerted to this on your phone, and now you're watching us. So I'm just going to walk you through it, and I'll promise you'll have the warning in time. That it is still rotating to the point that it's a concern. If you're in Bright, you need to be getting in your safe spot now if you're not already. I mentioned a couple of minutes ago there in Bright. Here's Getwell. Here's Byhalia Road. It's right over that intersection, just south of 269. If there is a tornado, it's right here, and it's going to be moving a little bit south of due east. It's not going straight this way. It's going like this. So it could very well go south of Lewisburg and the Lewisburg school. So let's hope that happens. Let's give it another scan there in Lewisburg, and if this holds on, then we'll decide to get in our safe spot there in Lewisburg. That's all I'm speaking to now. In Bright, you're in your safe spot absolutely right now. Let's look at the shear product and just see if that is starting to tighten up a little bit more. And it hasn't caught up yet with the current velocity data. The velocity data is certainly, you let me know if I need to change that out, my microphone better. The velocity data was tighter. We just got a new scan in, so it looks like we've weakened a little bit. So we're going through that cycling thing again, like we were in western DeSoto County, where it looked a healthy circulation and looked robust, and then it fell apart, crossed the interstate, flared up, and now we're at now where it's starting to fall apart again. Great news. So let's see if the trend continues, or are we reaching a point where maybe this comes to a head and said, all right, it's done producing for the night and it's just heavy rain again. We're not there yet, but we know we're in this tornado warning all the way over to Lewisburg. It's weakened dramatically. not enough to say the threat is completely gone, but you look at a couple scans ago, if there's anything now, it's going to be kind of right in this general area. You go back a couple scans, it was certainly much tighter back closer to I-55 in the way here. Right there is still fairly tight, went over bright, and now it's weaker, much weaker rotation, not consolidated in such a way that is as concerning. I'm going to watch this for one more scan, and then, you folks there in Lewisburg, we may have to be in a situation where you kind of just have to play it safe, because whether the circulation weakens and it pops up, you get into one of those situations where, oh yeah, it's over, or the circulation has fallen apart, and then maybe it gets to you and it flares back up again. So let's just see where we're at. New scan just came in. And this is interesting because it's kind of like two new spots. So right now, Lewisburg, let's make the decision. Let's go ahead and get the kids up. Let's get them in the safe spot. You can't mess with this. I wanted to wait there for a minute just to see if it completely dropped away like it did before. You still have plenty of time. You got a solid 10 to 15 minutes in Lewisburg, closer to 305 and 269, right at that intersection, close to all the schools there. You got some time, not a lot. You got 10, 15 minutes, plenty of time to make your preps there. Get the kids up, get them in the safe spot, and let's hunker down until I sound the all clear on this. There's almost two areas of rotation now that are evolving. One is back over Bright. You're still in your safe spot, Bright. We haven't cleared you there yet. There's also kind of this notch where you get east of Getwell and you're on Pleasant Hill Road, and then it starts to hook to the north there, kind of in that general area. We're still south of Church Road, by the way, that general area where there's some rotation trying to get going as well. That may be just, I think that's also in the warned area. Yeah, that's also in the warning. So we're still all covered by the tornado warning. You see where that warning kind of goes. It doesn't go all the way up to Goodman. Again, it only goes up to Church, and then here's by Haley Road and 269 and Pleasant Hill. So this is the northern edge of the warning, and down by Bright is the southern edge of the warning. So what I just showed you in those two areas of potential rotation, are both inside the warned area. So everybody's gotten the alert that they need. This is all moving east. If you're over towards Cedarview and Lewisburg right now, anywhere along 305, you need to be in your safe spot now until this moves overhead, because this is just not a situation that you can mess with because of how quickly these can develop. You've seen it where it's just one scan, maybe it looks a little weaker, and then is it gone? And then it flares right back up, and you can potentially have something developing right on top of you or very close to you, and then you got a problem because you're not prepared. So let's get in our safe spot there. Maybe a little broad rotation here, a little bit more that is now east of Bright. Those would be the two areas that I'd be looking for something to maybe try and tighten up a bit more. Regardless, there's a lot of wind in this. Still, those 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts, straight line winds, but it's just a very turbulent atmosphere where we can get something to spin up. Both of the areas I just sampled, 55 miles per hour. You can shave off again 10-15%. You're still getting at least 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts and a good chunk of east central DeSoto County. While we're waiting for new scans to come in, let's do another update for everybody else further north. This is the first time in a while I've heard the rain stop here at our studios on the roof. It's been pouring rain for quite a while. Heavy rain out towards Germantown. It's pouring in Olive Branch. It's pouring in Collierville up to Fisherville, out towards Arlington. Your rainfall rate's picking up in Oakland as well. There's a new batch of heavier rain right down I-40. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, where there's likely to be some back building of storms in areas that tried to quiet down, like Goodwin quieted down back in St. Francis County, Forest City for a short time quieted down, and now you've picked up again with more heavy rain. And to me, this looks like that batch of weather that we were tracking back towards Searcy that was catching up with everything. Let me loop this for the last hour, and I bet that's what it is. And that's likely our cold front catching up with everything. You see that activity back towards Augusta? Kind of pushed into Cross County, the tail end of it sank further south down towards Brinkley and along I-40, and it's developing new heavier downpours right along the front. That's what I believe we have here. I think this is the front right in here now, catching up with everything. You see how it's just sliced right there? That's like our cold front, and that's going to continue to move east. So I'm hoping maybe that speeds up a little bit, because what that will do, yes, in the short term, pick up rainfall rates, but then it clears out very quickly. So if we can get this moving, we can kind of shove some of this heavier rain out of the metro within the next hour or so. So maybe we can bring a sooner end at least to the flash flooding that's ongoing across a lot of the Memphis metro. In the short term, it's going to keep raining heavily, and more rain's coming in through Crittenden County. It's pouring in Forest City and Proctor right now. Back towards Wynn, it's starting to to lighten up, and you're probably on the tail end of it there. In Cross County, you've had 7-8 inches of rain, close to 9 inches of rain in 24 hours. You need it to stop raining, and you're just about there. I think this is the last of any significant rain to come through for you tonight. There's still very heavy rain, though, popping up out ahead of this. There's a quick little update on everything else. Let's go back in. All right, thank you. Let's go back in our tornado-warned storm in central and eastern portions of DeSoto County. In that warning, I'm not ignoring you folks over in northern Marshall County and Byhalia, just focusing on where the most imminent threat was. Again, as this progresses forward in time, if it's still holding its own, we can get to that point. If you're in Byhalia, you're at a spot now where you're just kind of watching this for now. I know you're in the warned area, but this could very well, again, just go away and that be done for the night. None of this is a concern to me right now. There's a couple pockets, still a broad rotation. You're still in your safe spot in Lewisburg. Remember, we're just playing it safe. You can't be too careful in situations like this. This is not going to be, if there was a tornado at any point, this is not a violent, long-track tornado. We're not talking EF3s here. But you get an EF1, you can get some roof damage to your house. Your kids are sleeping upstairs, and that can be a problem. Insulation's falling. All those types of things are something you have to consider. It's like, what do I want to mess with here? Let's play it safe. Let's wake everybody up. Let's get in the safe spot. Cedar View down towards Lewisburg, you're still in your safe spots now until this area moves over 305 and gets deeper into eastern DeSoto County and eventually pushes over into Marshall County. Bright, your threat's over. Can head back to bed there, at least put the kids back to bed. I'm sure the adults are still up, but Bright, your threat's over. No longer a concern for the tornado warned portion of the storm. Let's see if they've hopefully trimmed back that warning. They still got the warning back. Yeah, folks in the National Weather Service there, let's hopefully jump on in and cut this off a little bit, because none of this part of the warning needs to any longer be in effect all the way back to Nesbitt. There's no threat at all. Bright up here, we'll just say get well west. There's no threat at all in any of that spot. It's all now over towards Cedar View and Lewisburg and moving east at about 35 miles per hour there. So again, all those spots I just mentioned, you're done with any sort of threat from this for tornadic activity. Doesn't look crazily impressive in terms of any rotation near Lewisburg. Again, we're just waiting for it to get overhead and get east of you before we sound the all clear. For now, you're still in your safe spot until this rotation that is, again, weak right now gets past you because of the threat of it flaring back up like it has a history of doing all across DeSoto County over the last hour or so. But right now, it's not anything that I would be overly concerned about for tornadoes still occurring. You see just kind of the weaker levels of rotation. This is our shear product, but lined up almost exactly in those spots I was mentioning in the velocity data. There were almost two spots we were watching to decide, okay, is one going to flare up? Are they both going to weaken? Are they both just going to hold steady? For now, they're both just holding steady. No signs of anything trying to increase its rotation. Certainly an interesting picture here, and just the way the winds are moving. There's broad rotation in this kind of way, and then in this kind of way, kind of a big broad notch here, if you will, with wind coming out of the east and south through Lewisburg, and then the backside, the winds are starting to come out of the north and even northwest. So there's just kind of this big broad area. Maybe those two spots we were watching kind of merging into one, if you will, but nothing tight enough to say there's a problem there right now. Now that's a new scan that just came in right over Lewisburg. You saw how that just changed. And this is why we said let's get in our safe spot. Let's play this safe here, because how quickly, again, we go from really not a whole lot to two scans later. Maybe it's trying to tighten up again towards Lewisburg, which has kind of been this storm's MO, really, honestly, since they first tornado warned this back in western DeSoto County. 2-3 scans, which is the span of 6-7 minutes in this case. Decent rotation. And then it falls apart, goes away completely, and then it flares back up again. 2 or 3 scans, does the same thing. That's kind of what we've done for 2 or 3 cycles now. This would be the spot I'm watching for something maybe tightening up just south of Byhalia Road, east of 305. Maybe another area up towards Cedar View, but that's much broader right now. And you can tell when I say broad, just a wider area, not concentrated on one little point or anything. That's not really what that's looking like. This is a little bit more so of that, where maybe we're trying to get a couple more little pixels hooking up and getting a tight couplet, as we call it, where the rotation is very tight and confined to a small area. That's more indicative of a possible tornado. So that has tightened up a little bit. So let's keep watching that for now. This is not crossed yet, obviously, into Marshall County. If you're in Byhalia and Warsaw, we're getting to the point. Let's get you some arrival times here. You know, once we're within that 10-15 minute window of, okay, this is within 10 minutes of my house, 15 minutes of my house, that's when I want you to take shelter in Byhalia and Warsaw. Before then, again, I just let's wait and see, because I don't want you to take any unnecessary precaution in this case if it completely goes away. Byhalia 948. It's about 18 minutes from right now. You got White's Chapel School, Byhalia Middle School. White's Chapel School is again in DeSoto County, so that's sooner, 936. And this is really where this is tracking, right down the middle of this cone that I've drawn, which would take it over towards Warsaw and Byhalia within the next 15 to 20 minutes. So that means let's get another scan or two in before I make the call there in Byhalia that you need to head to your safe spot. And the warning goes all the way over to like Red Banks. So if you're in Red Banks right now or Victoria, you're just watching this, you got plenty of time just to watch it and see what it does. But if we get to the point where we still look like this, where it's not definitive that it's gone, but it's weaker, then you just got to play it safe, and then it'll be time to get in your safe spot. But again, we're not there yet for you folks that way. We're approaching that, but not yet. So right now, focused on south and east of Cedarview and just south and east of Lewisburg. But even this on this scan has gotten weaker. So from our standpoint, I know it's frustrating to you at home as well when you're like, is there a tornado or not, kind of thing. Well, this is one of those situations where there might be one, and most of the time it doesn't look like there is. But it takes one scan where this tightens up, and you can get a very short-lived EF1, EF0. It can cause problems. It's just a situation that you have to respect. It's just part of severe weather season where sometimes this is how it plays out. And from the perspective of the last couple of days where we've had multiple rounds of severe weather, tonight is not a night where honestly the severe weather threat is high, but that doesn't mean we can't get warnings like we've had now, where there's just one little spot that continues to produce a little weak area of rotation, and we've got a tornado warning that we're tracking for an hour. It is what it is. So we just have to respect it and wait till this gets to the point that it's completely off the map and the setup of this whole storm changes to where it's no longer going to be producing a possible tornado. Right now, nothing jumps out as super concerning. Again, we had that one scan where it tightened up. That's what the shear product is showing as well. It's done a very good job at lining up when the rotation tightens, the shear picks up on it as well. So it was significant just south and east of Lewisburg on the last scan, but I think what we'll notice here when the next shear update comes in, this is weaker to match up with the new velocity data that we got previously. Because you see how the new velocity data is again back to just this broad, messy look. You're about done with any sort of threat in Lewisburg. I'm ready to clear you there just about. Give me another minute or so here. Cedarview as well, anywhere along 305. This is now east of 305. More of an issue into far eastern DeSoto County, approaching the county line with Marshall County. Let's zoom on in here. We got Old Byhalia Road, you got Fairview Road, 269 and 22, the intersection there. That's effectively where both of these are going to come very close to passing in that general area here. Stonewall Road, Vincent Road, that whole general spot. That's where these two, if there's even two left, both areas of rotation are tracking into those zones. So again, if this holds on and we get to the point where this is approaching the county line, it'll be time in Byhalia to get in your safe spot, and probably the same for Warsaw as well. Ingram's Mill, this is just north of you. Again, very broad rotation, but where we had it last more significantly was closer to Byhalia Road, not this far south. So if you're that far south, I think it's going to go just north of you there. I know you're in the tornado warning. Cockrum, this is not an issue for you. I don't believe the new warning even included Cockrum. Yeah, it did not. It did include Ingram's Mill. So again, here's the cutoff of the severe thunderstorm warning and the tornado warning. Looking at reflectivity, there's obviously a notch here. So that's also indicating that there's still a setup in which we could have new rotation form up, just with the reflectivity presentation and how we've cleared out kind of that little slot. And we'll just see if the velocity data starts to match up with that a little bit more. Where we were looking at was right in here. So perhaps we saw that southern kind of circulation weaken, and then we're getting a new, more prominent rotation that would match up right in here north of 269. So it does kind of move around and jump around, and we just have to follow it and see where the new circulation develops. That's why, again, it helps to just have somebody kind of walk you through this to say, well, what am I looking at? Where is the problem? Because obviously you got the warning all the way over in Red Banks, and it's raining in a lot of those spots, and you're concerned, does this have a tornado in it? I mean, what's going on? It's pouring north of Byhalia, and you're in a tornado warning there. There's not a issue in those spots over towards Tasca, south of Mount Pleasant. This isn't going to be a problem for you because this is moving almost in a track that's going to parallel 22 at this point. It's kind of like east, but a little bit south of due east. So Byhalia, yes, you'll be in a threat if this continues to produce some sort of rotation that could indicate a tornado, but then also Victoria and Red Banks, and just past Red Banks is where the warning stops. That's the most significant I've seen it look from a reflectivity perspective, just that notch there. So again, I'm curious to see, let's go back and look at the velocity data. There's also some talk that the folks at the National Weather Service waiting for that new scan of velocity data to come in, seeing if we tighten up here in that same spot where the notch is. There's talk that the National Weather Service was with the Storm Prediction Center on a call, deciding to issue a new tornado watch for parts of West Tennessee, and it's a little over the top, I think, but they're talking about all of North Mississippi, which is a little more than it needs to be. But there's likely to be a new tornado watch coming, and I'll relay that information wherever that gets issued for whenever it comes out. It can sometimes take 10 or 15 minutes. When they say it's getting issued, it can take a little bit. So we'll watch that. I certainly hope they're not including areas. This does not need to be in a tornado watch. I'm hoping they're talking about areas further east when they do issue that tornado watch. They can sometimes get a little loose with how they draw that, but I'll kind of dissect that for you when they put it out and kind of really address where there would be any threat, if any threat at all, the rest of the night tonight. Sometimes when they get a tornado warning like this and it continues to have some circulation, they just want to get out ahead of it and say, let's issue tornado watch. That very well could mean we get absolutely nothing the rest of the night. It doesn't mean we're anticipating a bunch of tornadoes, but just that's what the Storm Prediction Center decides to do sometimes. So we'll see what they come out with for any new tornado watch. Nothing is tightened up with our velocity signature here, which is good. There's a lot of wind in this. Again, Lewisburg, if I didn't say it already, Lewisburg, you're clear. Cedarview, you're clear. Not an issue for Cockrum. With the warning ongoing, you folks in Byhalia and Warsaw, it's time to just play it safe, because again, I don't see anything imminent here. However, one scan and a new little spot of rotation pops up, and then it's too late. So let's, Byhalia, Warsaw, let's go ahead and get in your safe spot there. And I know, again, just time of night, and if you have little kids especially, it can be a bit of a headache trying to wake everybody up and get them into the safe spot. But it is what it is. It's better to be safe than sorry in these situations. So with the tornado warning ongoing and still something they're trying to develop, you folks in Byhalia and Warsaw, let's go and get in our safe spot, and we'll alert you in Victoria within the next few minutes if we need to do the same, and possibly Red Banks if this is still holding on in some form or fashion. Let's look at our shear product here. Still evident that there's rotation, but this is weaker, lining up again with the trend of our velocity data getting weaker as well. So we'll just wait to see if anything gets more organized. At no point have I seen any sort of debris signature with this. Nothing evident, at least. I'm going to go back in time. There was never a point where this really lined up, and I can explain this to you, but it for your purposes at home doesn't mean a whole lot unless I see something that's of note. So let me just look at this real quick. There's never really a time when this looked like it produced maybe a little spot of something, but yeah, nothing to confirm it purely based off radar. So that's good, because it means that there's no indication of debris of any kind being wafted into the atmosphere. Very, very messy. And this is the weakest it's looked in a while. There's nowhere along this right now. Again, a new scan comes in and something decides to tighten up somewhere in here. But as it stands right now, there's nothing imminent of one particular spot that looks concerning. We're still in our safe spot there in Byhalia and Warsaw, just because of the nature of this and how quick it can change. We've seen it multiple times in the last hour or so since we've been on the air, where One scan comes in and it's tight again, and say, let's watch that spot. It strengthens and then goes away. So that could very well happen again, or we may have reached the life cycle of this particular storm. We're waiting for that new scan to come in. Let me go back. I mean, this is still an impressive hook. Doesn't always mean that there's a tornado in there. It's filling in a bit more, so that's good. That's also a sign that maybe if there was some inflow there and some rotation trying to happen, that it's falling apart, which would more so match up with the velocity data. So that's good to see that kind of fall apart a little bit and not be as well defined. The tornado warning for that goes until, I believe, just do it over here. I believe it was 9:45, maybe 10 o'clock. That's the severe thunderstorm warning. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to pull it up. Go back in time. I'm not able to find that warning. I believe it was 9:45, so we may be approaching the end of this, and I'll see if I can get a better sample on that. Oh, we're still grabbing the severe thunderstorm warning. Try that. All right, well, it is what it is. I believe it goes until 9:45. We'll see if they decide to drop that or if it gets extended at that point. It's 9:40 right now. But again, this isn't imminently doing anything concerning. You're still in your safe spot there in Byhalia and Warsaw. I'll clear you when we get to the point that we can do that. But it's just not anything that impressive anymore in terms of the rotation. 10 o'clock. Warning goes till 10 o'clock. Okay, so we got another 20 minutes, 19 minutes now. And it's really anywhere in DeSoto County. If you were alerted to this latest tornado warning, your threat is over in DeSoto County. This is going to be Marshall County now. Byhalia down to Red Banks is really the full extent of where the warning is and where the storm has reached. I'm hoping they've trimmed this back. They haven't quite yet, but they did trim the previous spots that I told you about 15 minutes ago that they needed to. So hopefully they'll cut this out again. They might wait a few more minutes, but they'll eventually trim out all of DeSoto County, and it'll just be left Marshall County. And then we'll see if additional warnings get issued, if this continues to have some rotation enough to continue tornado warnings, or if they can let this one expire and then we just let this go forward in time, and hopefully we're done for the rest of the night with any severe weather. The front is really booking it now, which is good news from a flooding perspective. We've already got numerous reports of flash flooding. There's a flash flood warning for all of Shelby County, back into Crittenton, and then Cross and St. Francis County, that whole sector, because of where those blobs were sitting for a couple hours with just heavy rain. This is the cold front, though. Based on what I'm seeing and how this is catching up, look how fast it's clearing right through there, all the way up to almost Millington, Drummond's area right now. That kind of line is our cold front. So that's why it's clearing very quickly across Cross County. Again, spots that have seen upwards of 7 to 8 inches of rain in 24 hours have now seen the last of any heavy rain for the rest of the week. Can you get a spotty shower tomorrow? Sure, but this kind of stuff is going to be done with once you get this past your location. I don't think we're going to see any additional flaring up of that as we go through the rest of the night. The one area that's not going to be the case is far southern portions of our viewing area in North Mississippi, closer to the 278 corridor. I think you got a few hours here where this could fill back in. You're in a bit of a gap back towards Batesville and Oxford, where the heavier rain is clearing out for the time. You're getting a gap here, but then as the cold front approaches, if it slows down at all especially, you're going to get into some prolonged periods of heavy rain potentially later tonight, closer to maybe 1, 2 o'clock in the morning at this point. I think the high-resolution models have handled this very well as far as the evolution of this through the day. That first round this afternoon blasting through within the span of an hour or two, and then this kind of flaring back up this evening and giving us a flood threat, but a much lower severe threat. And you say, much lower severe threat? Well, we've got a tornado warning. Well, again, that's just one spot with a problematic area of rotation that's pesky and won't go away. But the overall severe threat is very low for this evening and overnight. Looks like we maybe have a new little inflow notch there trying to develop south and east of Byhalia now. So let's check on in. You're in your safe spot in Byhalia and Warsaw. I want to see the new scan come in and see if this is any different, because you can see what I was looking at there. I'm sure it jumped out on the screen. Right here, maybe a little more new inflow notch south and east of Byhalia, but the velocity data was still kind of back in here. So we'll see what the new scan came in with, see if that can give us a little more indication of where things stand right now. Can almost tell it a little bit different on this product. This is, again, just two different products. One takes into account storm motion and one takes out storm motion out of the picture. Tends to give us just a little bit different view depending on what storm we're looking at. There's broad rotation here again. How many times have I said broad rotation tonight, right? So there's broad rotation here. Very strong winds now out towards Victoria that are approaching probably 50 to 60. We're at the point now that you folks in Victoria, I don't see anything imminent, but you're in a tornado warning. You have broad rotation off to your west. You have a storm that has had a history of quick spin-ups. Let's get in your safe spot in Victoria, and let's just go ahead and do it in Red Banks as well, because that's the end of the tornado warning where it extends now. It does not go much further past Red Banks. It does not go into Holly Springs. Could a new tornado warning be issued? It's possible, and it likely will happen if this doesn't change within the next 10 minutes where it's just gone. You know, again, that little, as to say that the notch has disappeared a little bit. So again, it's a very frustrating setup for you at home and for us, because again, there's nothing to definitively say late at night in pouring rain with no clear-cut radar evidence if there's actually a tornado occurring. There are signs that maybe one be trying to form. There may have been a couple little ones produced across DeSoto County, but at this point, not a whole lot to go off of. There is maybe some broad rotation that's still kind of right near Byhalia and Warsaw, kind of in the 309 area. There's significant inflow. Okay, new scan just came in. So again, broad rotation, but I'd say if there's anything trying to sync up in a little bit more significant way, it's probably now east of Warsaw. Yes, there's some rotation back here as well, south and west of Byhalia, but it's not one defined area. So all these spots, Byhalia, Warsaw, Victoria, all the way over to Red Banks, you've been in your safe spot in these locations, but if you're in Victoria and Red Banks, you're getting into your safe spot now, please. And let's just let this roll through. It won't be long, and then we'll be able to go back to bed, especially for the little kids that are now up late in the evening. You have tremendous amounts of rainfall, obviously. You're not going to see anything, so it's tough to get even storm chaser reports of what's happening. Let's go look at our terminal Doppler out of, let's see, hopefully this gives us a better picture. Yeah, we're getting a little tightening even back south and west of Byhalia. So we'll see if that area right here picks up or does it weaken again. It may go one scan where, as the next scan, tighten up a little bit. Maybe we're now using the terminal Doppler out of just north of Nesbitt. It's a radar that's dedicated to the airport for detecting downbursts for planes on approach. Most major airports in the U.S. now have these because of downburst incidents back in the 80s and 90s, that they've installed these at most major airports. So a great resource for us because it gives us very high resolution imagery close to the radar site in DeSoto County and Tate County and Marshall County. Particularly in these areas, it can be really useful in certain instances. So that's what we're using now to kind of look at that rotation that is just south and west of Byhalia, kind of right along Stonewall Road. Let's do a quick storm track of this. It's still moving east, southeast at 35. The warning goes to just past Red Banks, and it is set to expire at 10 o'clock. Still at a 35 mile per hour storm motion. Let's do another storm track for you, kind of taking that area of circulation over to Red Banks. Something like this. Red Banks at 10:08 on its current storm speed. And this is significant as well, something that just came across in the National Weather Service chat. We've had they're either new or old ongoing flash flood warnings that are being upgraded to a considerable threat. So there's levels of warning within the warning. We have that with severe thunderstorm warnings as well. There's base severe thunderstorm warnings. You get into considerable, which is kind of the next level up. These are flash flood warnings where you're getting into the next level up of, instead of a base flash flood warning, you're getting into a considerable threat for flash flooding, which is concerning. I'm hoping that front continues to speed up and clear us out. Real quick, the arrival times there again, Victoria, 10 o'clock. Within the next 11 minutes, for if that circulation remains the dominant one, that would be the arrival time for it to get over to that spot. And then Red Banks 10:08, closer to about 20 minutes from now. So yes, still time to watch it, but I wanted you just to get in your safe spot there because it doesn't seem like this is going to drop off to the point that we can say it's done for good. Maybe a little weaker there in that latest scan. just messy. Boom. All right, so let's go back a couple scans. A little tighter. Right there is certainly tighter. South and west of Byhalia, along Byhalia Road, Stonewall Road, crossing I-22, and now we're at its current state where it's certainly a bit weaker. We'll come back and check on that in a second. Let's just look at the flash flood warnings here, because again, the rainfall. How about some rainfall rates or rainfall totals over the last 6 hours? And while that's popping up, so flash flood warning with a flash flood damage threat upgraded to considerable now. Life-threatening flash flooding, urban areas, a lot of concrete, poor drainage spots. These are rainfall totals of the last 6 hours. And it's right down the I-40 corridor. 6 hours of rain near Heth, back in northeastern St. Francis County, 7 inches of rain. It's just that's tremendous. I haven't seen anything like that quite to that extent since last April. Last April was historic flooding, as you know, especially through portions of eastern Arkansas where there were water rescues and neighborhoods underwater for a couple of weeks. It was just bad news. I'm hoping that doesn't come to fruition with the light of day tomorrow. I don't know what the reports are like right now of what the state of some of those neighborhoods that typically have issues are, but I'm sure we'll start hearing about some law enforcement reports as we go deeper into the evening. But that's a lot of rain in 6 hours. That's more than an inch per hour. And some of this isn't even in 6 hours. We're approaching this 10 o'clock. Those storms really started, about 6 hours, I should say. In Crittenden County, your storms earlier today really ramped up 3:45, 4 o'clock. So we're approaching 6 hours of rain. So 7 to maybe 7.5 inches in a pocket there. Sorry about that, folks. A little battery update. Well, you got the battery going again. So we've got 6-7 inches of rain. Here you go. 6-7 inches of rain through much of the I-40 corridor from downtown back into northeastern St. Francis County. That's going to cause considerable damage from the flash flooding perspective, and it's still ongoing. And I'm just hoping that front speeds up a little bit. Let me show you the reflectivity that will go back to our tornado warning. Thankfully, we're getting an end to this, and this is good news that this front is speeding up, because initially, an hour or two ago, it was sitting still, and we were going to keep raining in all these areas for a few more hours. Now it's speeding up, and this is bringing it in sharply to the heavy rain. So where you had that 7.2 inches kind of right in here, the rain's ended. That's good. This will shortly end across the city. Still some pockets of heavy rain right now, but it's still pouring in downtown Memphis and a good chunk of Shelby County. However, if you're in North Mississippi, or maybe you haven't had as much rain this evening, particularly in Northwest Mississippi, where there's kind of this break in here, this big slot, this is going to fill back in with some of this activity that's coming through Mariana and sliding through Lee and Phillips County shortly. I'll put that into motion real quick, and then we'll go check on our tornado warning. You see how this is kind of developing a little bit of new cell activity back towards Marvel, and this will swing through Phillips County. You're just going to get more rain, but it is moving faster, so it shouldn't stick around for an extended period of time. The one thing that would change that is down along 278. If the front starts to stall and lay out again, you could get into some heavy rain and some potential flash flooding down that way deeper into the overnight hours. For now, the major flash flooding issue is just around the metro, Shelby County, down into DeSoto County. All right, so where does our tornado warning stand right now? Time is 9:53, so we have 7 minutes left on the warning that goes up to about Red Banks. There's nothing new that I can tell you, unfortunately, in terms of just the state of the rotation. It's still weak, but it's still evident. It hasn't gone away. That's why you're just in your safe spot in Victoria and Red Banks. The rotation has maybe jumped a little bit eastward. And go back a couple scans, because we use the terminal Doppler here and get a better picture. So a couple scans ago, we had south and west of Byhalia right here, and then it jumped across 309. So that original spot is going to be kind of right here, but there's not a whole lot to that. This is more just strong winds rushing from the northwest to the southeast, and then you have wind kind of coming around that into that little notch. Through Red Banks, your winds are more so out of the south-southeast, and then in Victoria, your winds are out of the north. So that's why, again, you have kind of this broad area of rotation. Is it trying to tighten? Is it not? It's tough to define right now. However, there's a lot of wind regardless. Near Victoria right now, we're approaching levels of wind that will cause some wind damage. Some of this is going to be upwards of 56, approaching 60 miles per hour in some of this activity near and just south of I-22 in the Victoria area. I would say that the cause for concern for tornadic circulation has now moved east of Byhalia. So I'm just about ready to clear you there in Byhalia. That's the last hour. Let's do the last 15 minutes. Yeah, it's jumped across 309. If anything was trying to develop, which I just don't see it right now, it'd be kind of right in here north and west of Victoria. I'd more so, at this state with what we're looking at, I'd more so be concerned about just the wind, straight line winds coming at you in Victoria. And again, most of this wind is moving away from the radar site, so blowing like this down I-22, and we'll just see if that reaches Red Banks. Could become more of a straight line wind threat than a tornado threat, which is why there's still the ongoing severe thunderstorm warning. So our friends at the National Weather Service said they'll be making a decision soon. It's 9:56. The warning expires at 10 o'clock of what to do with the tornado warned storm. They're saying the same things I've been telling you for quite a while now. The velocity is not as impressive as it was previously, and they're still looking for some flood reports. And I'm sure they're going to get a lot of them with all the rain that's happened across the metro this evening. So we're going to stick with you. We're coming up on our 10 o'clock news. Coming up on our 10 o'clock news here, which if the warning is dropped at 10 o'clock, we will start our news as normal, guys in the back. So just be prepared for that. And then should the warning continue, we'll continue with our wall-to-wall coverage as long as we need to deeper into the night. They are going to be dropping the tornado warning. I think that's the right move. So good job, the National Weather Service there making the right call. I mean, there's no low-level circulation that's very tight anymore that would be concerning. Doesn't mean it can't change, doesn't mean a new tornado warning couldn't be issued, but just at a point here where it's like let's hold off on the warnings until something flares back up. So I know you're in your safe spot there in Victoria and Red Banks. You are no longer in a tornado warning as of 10 o'clock. It will be allowed to expire in 3 minutes. So give me another few minutes there and we'll be able to clear you and you can get the kids back to bed, whatever you need to do. Regardless, there's a lot of wind rolling down I-22. I don't know about 40. It's probably a bit higher than that. 51 sounds better. 50 to 60 is probably some of the levels of some of these brighter returns on our velocity data near Victoria right now that are approaching Red Bank. So you could still have some sporadic isolated wind damage there. Think like a carport or a tin roof on a shed blowing, and a couple tree branches coming down. It's those levels of wind for the time being. So we're coming up on 10 o'clock. We're going to take you right to our 10 o'clock news. So guys, we're going to start our 10 o'clock news as planned, and we will have added weather coverage through our 10 o'clock news, and then we'll evaluate from there how we go through the rest of the night. It's good to see, again, the front catching up. Let me show you just a satellite kind of wide view, if I still have it in my show here. Here we go. I'm going to have to move the front. The front's not in the right position here, but what has happened, this was about 3-4 hours ago. Wait for it to populate. There we go. 3-4 hours ago, this is where the front was. It's not where the front is now. It was a stalled front, and it started to pick up speed. And look at this line here, right here, that up to there. That's where the front is now. It's sped up. It started moving again as a cold front. And it's really pushing the heavy rain now into North Mississippi and getting it out of the metro. Again, it's not great for more heavy rain in North Mississippi, but we've had too much rain in the city and along I-43 eastern Arkansas. 7+ inches in some spots just today, and all the storms last night. So we need this to stop quickly, and the good news is that it is stopping in a hurry. There's still pouring rain, obviously, through a good chunk of the city and around Shelby County, but this is the last little bit of it here up towards Millington right now. Some very heavy rain coming into Bartlett, but this is going to be the last of the heavy rain This is the cold front, right? You see it right there? That's shoving it out of here, getting it off to the east, and we're going to be able to let the drains kind of catch up. It's going to be a little bit. There's obviously standing water on the roads. There's flooding in a lot of spots. I don't anticipate any of that lingering into tomorrow morning, just because typically when you have this type of a setup, it's just the drains needing to catch up, unless you have a clogged drain. We've seen that happen time and time again. There'll be a drain on 240 that shuts down 4 lanes of traffic because it didn't get cleared, and then we have a heavy rain. So if all the drains were cleared, this should clear up within a few hours of standing water on the roads in any location. So just hoping they have all that cleared and they're good to go in that regard. Did have a storm report in Colt in St. Francis County. Several roads flooded and impassable back in Colt in St. Francis County. Again, all of St. Francis County have seen tons and tons of rain, so that's been a big problem. So guys, it's 10 o'clock, ready to start the news, and we'll do more radar updates here throughout the next 30 minutes and perhaps longer if we need to. Sound good? All right, let's start the Channel 3 News right now at 10 o'clock.
It is 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are?
From WREG in Memphis, this is News Channel 3 at 10.
Severe weather tops the news at 10 with tornado watches in effect for some areas and others getting heavy rain and flash flooding. Dangerous lightning lit up the sky like this bolt that looks like it hit the Mississippi River in downtown Memphis earlier tonight. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Stephanie Skurlock. Let's go straight to Chief Weather Expert Tyler Eliason for the latest on the Mid-South weather conditions. And Tyler, you have been tracking this thing all night long.
Yeah, it's been a busy evening, Steph. Hitting a point here where we're hoping to wind down the rain in the city because there's tremendous amounts of flash flooding that are ongoing, not just in Memphis and around Shelby County, but back into Crittenden County, Cross, and St. Francis County. Some spots have picked up almost 8 inches of rain just today.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of rain in the span of about 6 hours. So we need the rain to stop and stop in a hurry. And I think it's doing just that right now as the cold front has finally picked up some speed again. It was stalled across northern Arkansas all day. And now that it's moving, it's finally kicking a lot of this out of the city. Now it's going to be a little bit still in Shelby County, but not much longer. I'd say over the next 30 to 45 minutes, we'll start to see some drastic improvement. It's this last little line here. That is the cold front. So we're seeing an uptick in some of the lightning activity. Quick note on the lightning. I'd venture to say that in our viewing area just today, there's been over 100,000 lightning strikes. It has been prolific with storms. I mean, at any one 30-minute window, as the round came through earlier today, there were upwards of 8,000 lightning strikes in that cluster as it moved through rapidly from west to east. So that alone probably produced almost 100,000 lightning strikes. And then on top of that, we've had what's been going on this evening. The tornado warning that we were tracking for a lot of the last hour, hour and a half or so that was in DeSoto County and also in the warning was extended over to Marshall County, that has been allowed to expire at 10 o'clock. There's no longer a tornado warning in effect. And I just saw a report from DeSoto County Emergency Management. No reports of wind damage from the tornado warned storm at this time. We'll see if anything comes out over the next hour or so. Hope it doesn't, but there was never a point where it was like, that's a bad tornado. There could have been a quick spin up somewhere, but thankfully everything for the most part stayed weak. So we have very heavy rain still in DeSoto County, but your severe threat has ended. They still have the severe thunderstorm warning that includes Holly Springs. They probably trimmed some of this out of DeSoto County right now because it's really just the leading edge of this where you'd get some gusty winds still 50 to 60 miles per hour. That's pretty much been the full extent of it. The severe threat is not widespread. As we told you earlier this evening, it was the today storm, the afternoon storm, that had the most prominent severe threat. Tonight would be about the flooding, and that's really what it has been about. Look at some of the rainfall totals in 6 hours. This does not include any storms last night. This is just the last 6 hours since that round came through this afternoon. Near Heth, in northeastern Forest City or northeastern St. Francis County, this is just one sample of 6.5 inches. I had some numbers 7.5 inches up towards Proctor as well. Very similar amounts. Anything in yellow over 6 inches, and some of that has been in Shelby County. So there's widespread, significant flash flooding. It's just good news to see that thankfully now we're starting to wind down some of the heavier rain. It's still an improving process, but it's quickly cutting off in Crittenden County. It's done in Cross County. A lot of spots there have seen upwards of 8 inches just today or over the last 12 hours. So we vastly need some dry weather, and we're going to get it. So where do we go from here? Let's step forward in time real quick and just kind of walk you through our Tuesday. All this is gone by sunrise tomorrow. Before that, it's quiet by sunrise, we'll say, but all this is gone over the next couple hours. Could we still get some spotty showers as we go through? This is back, so that's why I had to jump through there. This is right now at about 10:30. All this mess quickly shoving to the south and east. The cold front catching up. Could we get some spotty showers through sunrise or close to sunrise? It's possible, but we're done with this widespread heavy rain nonsense, and the drains will be allowed to catch up a little bit. So you approach 6 a.m., pretty quiet and cooler. You'll notice the dew points dropping over the next 24 hours. It's going to feel so much more comfortable for the rest of this week. We've had that mugginess early in the week, just a sign of the atmosphere and the severe threats we've had. That's all going away. Your temperatures tomorrow afternoon are only upper 60s, low 70s. We'll get some sunshine mixed in from time to time, but generally speaking, a more cloudy day still, but very little in the way of rain chance. We go into the afternoon, temperatures upper 60s, low 70s at most. Should be a pretty decent day. And we've got some great weather later this week as well. Cool temperatures through the weekend. This weekend we'll have some 40s at night, 60s during the day. A lot of sunshine. Just what we needed after all this mess of weather here for the last 36 hours or so. Back in just a bit with more radar updates, and we'll have a closer look at the 7-day forecast. Steph, back to you.
All right, we'll check back with you, Tyler. Our team coverage takes us to Dyersburg, where a Skycop camera captured a possible tornado in the city overnight there. This is the area of East Court Street just after midnight. You can see a possible funnel cloud forming on the right side of the screen and heading across the road. The police department did not report any damage or injuries because of that. Meanwhile, MLDW says more than 5,000 customers are without power tonight, most of them in South Memphis near South Parkway and Barksdale. There's another big outage in the Grahamwood area, and a third are in northeast Shelby County in the Mudville community. So lots of power out tonight for a lot of families. Meanwhile, our Team 3 coverage of this weather continues tonight in Tipton County, where there were reports of downed trees and some power outages. WREG's Raven Copeland reports on the storm damage and response in that community.
It was around 4:15, and about 4:25 is when we first started getting our reports of trees down, damage, a lot of flooding, stuff like that.
Severe storms have crews working around the clock in Tipton County as they clear down trees and storm damage in the area. Tipton County Sheriff Shannon Beasley says today's severe weather packed heavy winds that downed some trees in the areas of Brighton and Drummonds. In total, Sheriff Beasley estimates the storms down 20 to 25 trees in Tipton County Tuesday.
As the storm continued, I guess, in a northeasterly direction, it was it appears that it just continued to knock trees down kind of in a path there.
WREG was at the scene of John Hill Road as crews spent hours clearing a massive tree from the roadway, which Sheriff Beasley says typically requires more equipment and manpower than smaller trees. The sheriff says teamwork within the Tipton County community helps crews prepare for storms and severe weather.
We all have a group message with county and city officials and public works departments, electrical crews, and we push that information out so everybody can see where everybody is, where the damage is, and what's going on.
Reporting for your news leader from Tipton County, Raven Copeland, WREG News Channel 3.
All right, now we'll look how bad the flooding got in the Jonesboro area this afternoon. The Huffman family farm shared this photo with us. They say a bridge in the area was completely underwater, making the situation just too dangerous to pass.